Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Hope you had a fun and relaxing weekend, but we are back. Another week of content going through Notre Dame's offseason. And this past weekend, we just recapped the NFL Combine, where 6 Notre Dame players got to showcase their abilities in some way, shape, or form down here in Indianapolis. And it is Monday, so after we kind of recap the NFL Combine, we're going to break down each player, talk about some of our takeaways, whether we think it improved or maybe hindered their draft stock a little bit. It is Monday, so we're going to be diving into the buy, sell, hold. That thread has been going up since yesterday. A lot of good submissions like there are every single week, not to the surprise of either Brian or I here, but ready to dive into everything today, man. Brian, how you doing, man?
I am doing wonderful. I am ready to rock and roll. We had a lot of great submissions today, and I always enjoy the Combine, Trev. I've always said if I didn't do this, I would have got into scouting. I've always just kind of loved the draft process, not to the degree where like my guy Ryan does, you know what I mean? Where like I want to make a career out of it, and I decided to go a different route. But like I thought about that after my coaching career early on when I was doing this. I was like, actually talked to an current NFL GM. He wasn't a GM at the time, and just decided it wasn't the route for me. But I love this time of year, man. You know what I mean? Like you're getting into the draft, you got to watch film again, and it's always fun watching Notre Dame kids at the Combine. It wasn't a lot of them, but obviously they were impressive. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really the only time we get to see, barring them facing each other on the actual football field, watching them compete and go through drills, and it gives us a good gauge relative to where some athletes were compared to others. And so I'm excited to dive into this today, man. So let's talk about it. Like I said, we're going to recap each player's performance, and we're going to discuss how we think it's going to impact their standing. And first person we're going to talk about here, obviously, Brian, is going to be running back Jeremiah Love, who we saw in a very limited capacity on Saturday when he worked out with the running backs. But in the limited drills that we saw him in, it's kind of one of those where it's like, I get why he did limited drills. He didn't have to do or show much to prove why he's the number one running back in this draft class.
Well, look, you and I talked about this last week, Trev, and, I was surprised he was going to run at all and surprised he was going to work out at all. I just kind of assumed he wasn't going to do that. Like, Arvell Reese didn't do it and Fernando Mendoza didn't do it. But when we found out he was only going to do the 40, like he did all the running back drills, and they even had him doing receiver stuff afterwards. So like we saw him do those drills. What Trev's talking about is he didn't do the vertical, the broad. He didn't do the 20-yard shuttle. He didn't do the 3-cone. He didn't do anything other than 40. And I had always kind of envisioned Jeremiah Love as like a low 4.4 guy. But we said last week when we previewed the Combine, Trev, that for him to announce he's going to run the 40, he thought he was going to run a really fast time. And you could see it when he ran the 4.37 and the 4.36. Like him and his dad were both kind of disappointed. You know what I mean? Like he's like, yeah, I thought I was going to get a 4. I was like, 4.2. But look, I mean, and here's the thing I like about it. And this is true for a lot of the Notre Dame players. Jadarian Price is the same way. Jeremiah Love worked out at 214 pounds, he said. He weighed in the day before at 212, which meant he ran that 4.36 at his playing weight. Like he didn't, and he even said at the end, he's like, I have to lose weight so I can do like, no, dude, trust me, NFL scouts don't care about that. They're like, dude, this guy's 212 and he ran a 4.36. Like this is what we wanted to see. He didn't slim down to go run fast. Jadarian Price was 203. That's basically his playing weight. Malachi was 218. Eli Raridan was 245. Those guys were all basically at their playing weights. And I think NFL teams are going to see that, or at least good scouts are going to see that and be like, hey, that means a little bit more to me than some guy that lost 7-8 pounds so he could take a shove a couple hundred, or shave a couple hundred tenths of a second off of his 40 time. I think Jeremiah Love certainly proved a lot. And look, I think something else that impacted Jeremiah Love is he did very well in the bag drills, the running back drills. The fact that they had him staying afterwards to run receiver routes, I think is going to help him as well, Trev. And you can see it in the mock drafts already. You can see it in the people talking. I saw Todd McShay was like, there's no way Jeremiah Love gets out of top 5. I sent you a Sports Illustrated mock draft from today. I've seen another mock draft. Now he's going 8 to the Chiefs is now or 8 to the Saints is now the lowest I've seen him. We're seeing 4, 5. So I think Jeremiah Love certainly helped himself a ton with this workout. And you're seeing people now more more loudly saying this is the best player in the draft. I mean, I don't really put a lot into Ryan Clark saying that, because I think with Ryan Clark, maybe there's a little bit of a bias there because he knows Jeremiah, and you know what I mean? Like, and so he may not have a bias, but like, I think people could dismiss that because they could accuse him of having a bias. But when you hear like Dan Orlovsky say it, and you hear like other people that don't like have that Notre Dame tie, and for those who don't remember, Ryan Clark's son played with Jeremiah Love last year at Notre Dame, Jordan Clark. I think those are things that you look at and say, yeah, how do you pass on this guy? And so I'm very curious to see, does it impact his draft status at all? That I don't know. I'm not a draft expert. But people who do make a career out of it have a lot to say about how this is going to impact his draft stock. And there's a lot of people thinking that he really helped himself potentially jump into the top 5. Like, how far down are you going to let the best player in the draft fall? That's basically the conversation a lot of these teams are going to have with themselves after this. And then, look, the other thing too, Trev, is there's a couple guys that I don't know necessarily help themselves. There's just this assumption that Cardinal Tate's going to be the first receiver. He's going to get taken higher than Jeremiah Love. And it's like, he may very well be, but with all due respect, Jeremiah Love is a far more dominant player than Cardinal Tate, who I'm a big fan of, by the way, far more dominant college player. And he just proved he's a far more explosive athlete. So which one do you want? The unicorn running back or the receiver who's a really good player, but kind of just like a lot of other top receivers in this draft? That's kind of the way you look at it. And honestly, the interesting conversation as part of that is you have to look at Jadarian Price. What's better, Cardinal Tate in the top 6 or 7 with Jadarian Price early round 2, or Jeremiah Love round, top 5 or 6 with the top receiver on the board in round 2? That's going to be an interesting discussion for people who maybe are looking to add some offensive firepower to this conversation. But there's no doubt about it. Jeremiah looked great, caught the ball well, looked great in drills. I thought he had a tremendous, tremendous combine.
Yeah, absolutely. He was every bit as explosive and smooth that we basically saw him be every single Saturday. And the other thing that I'll say too is Jeremiah Love is another player where there was a lot of talk around some other players that we're getting ready to talk about that were at the combine, where even some of the live commentators like, yeah, we just didn't see a whole lot of this in South Bend, but he's actually a pretty explosive athlete. Everything that they said about Jeremiah was as is. It's like, yeah, we expected this. We knew he was going to perform this way. I mean, even over on something like FanDuel, like we talked last week that Jeremiah Love was like tied for the 4th best odds to go number 1 overall, but he was tied with like 13 other guys. After the combine, he's still tied for 4th, but with like 4 other people. And so that was after getting the sample size of, the combine and what people did there. So I think that in itself is also impressive, because people are starting to take a look like, oh, okay. I mean, live, one of the commentators was like, hey, the Chiefs still have a shot at getting him, and honestly probably should based on the makeup of their roster, but they can't wait until the 9th overall pick to do it. And so there could be some very interesting trade-ups into the top 6, top 5 of this upcoming NFL draft. I'm very excited to watch that go down.
Well, it's like somebody on our board the other day, we were talking about Jeremiah Love's performance, Trev, and somebody on the board was like, if he doesn't get picked at that number 9 or 5-9 spot, he could fall all the way to 18. And I was like, no, that's not how the draft works. Like, you're looking at 10 through 17 and assuming none of them need running backs. Number 1, there's teams that take the best player available all the time. Number 2, some team that desperately wants a running back is going to see him fall to a 10, 11, 12. Like, there's no way he's falling past that and go up and get him. And so that's a very interesting thing to watch. But, that's now the jockeying begins. So some of the stuff about Jeremiah Love is going to be legit buzz. Some of it's going to be, hey, we want so-and-so player to fall to us, so let's create this Jeremiah Love buzz, so we can move up. There's a little bit of that gamesmanship as well, but it was fun to watch Jeremiah dominate. But he wasn't the only running back that dominated, Trevor.
No, he sure wasn't. I mean, as far as a complete performance goes, and I wrote this in my recap article for Jadarian Price, I think he was the best running back at the combine, all things considered. The performance that he put on the field, some of that is just we didn't watch Jeremiah Love do the shuttle or, the 3-cone or the vertical, but Jadarian Price, man, I think he put on a show down here in Indianapolis. He increased his draft stock for sure.
Yep. I think so like the 4.49 was good. That was a good time. Was I hoping he'd be 4.45? Yes. 4.49 is still cooking. And I did a breakdown, Trevor, where because I think sometimes we get into these. We talked about this last week. We get into these like high school stuff, where you look at all these kids running 4.4s in high school allegedly, and so then we're like, well, man, like, dude, Jadarian ran a 4.49. Like, no, that's actually good. When scouts are looking at it, that's actually really good. That's good speed. And the thing that I pointed out, I'm gonna try to pull up my my breakdown. Let me find it here. Let's see here. Where is my breakdown? Here we go. No, here we go. Okay, so I found it. So here's some scouting. Here's some combine numbers from some other big time backs. Okay. Jadarian Price measured in at 203 pounds. He ran a 4.49, 35-inch vertical, 10 foot 4-inch broad jump. Christian McCaffrey at 202 pounds ran a 4.48, 37.5 vertical, 10.1-inch broad jump. Bijan Robinson at 215 pounds, 4.46, 37-inch broad, 10.4 in the broad jump. Or, excuse me, 37-inch vertical, 37-inch broad jump would be terrible. You can step bigger than that. 37-inch vert and then a 10.4 broad. So far, Jadarian's been either right at or higher than everybody on the broad jump, slightly lower on the vert. 40 is very, very close. James Cook at 199 pounds, he ran a 4.42 with a 33-inch vert and a 10.4 broad. Javonte Williams, who was a second round pick? Did he go in the first round? But these are all 1,000-yard backs from this past season in the NFL. Javonte Williams at 212 pounds ran a 4.55, had a 36-inch vert and a 10.3 broad. And then DeAndre Swift at 212 pounds ran a 4.48 with a 35.5-inch vert and a 10.1 broad jump. And then there's other running, 1,000-yard backs that had worse than him. Tony Pollard didn't test as well as him. But I just went first and second round picks that were 1,000-yard rushers the last 2 years. And you see athletically, he was right there with all those guys from a testing standpoint. The film, obviously, we love. But then he went out there in the drills, and I was so happy to hear Daniel Jeremiah say this, because normally I listen to the combine on mute, but I was doing or I watch it on mute, but I was actually working. So, like, I'd look up when they were going, and I'd have to rewind sometimes because I'd miss a couple of the drills. But listening to Daniel Jeremiah say what you and I were texting back and forth is like, when we get to the position-specific workouts, nobody's been more impressive than Jadarian, and that includes Jeremiah Love. Like his explosiveness, his efficiency as an athlete, his acceleration, his all the things that we've seen from him on film were evident. But the big thing is, he was a kid that caught the ball a lot in high school, but they just didn't use him to do that in Notre Dame. He caught the ball extremely well, and I felt the same way. Daniel Jeremiah said it. You felt the same way. I'm sure everybody at home felt it as well. The route where he fell down ended up being a positive for him because it made him have to reach up and make this tough catch. I thought he caught the ball exceptionally well, and they were asking him to run. Like, people were talking about how, they're asking Jeremiah Love to run receiver routes. They had Jadarian Price doing the same thing, and he caught the ball extremely well. I thought he helped himself a ton. And the 4.49 is not. I mean, look, guys, I just mentioned a bunch of top 10 draft picks that were 4.46 to 4.48 in the combine. Like, trust me, Jadarian helped himself a ton. I think he solidified himself as the number 2 back. Some people are going to talk about Malik Washington because it was 4.33. But here's the problem with Malik Washington. Number one, he didn't do anything else, so I think he hurt his chance to kind of impress more. But I think he didn't do anything else because he knew he wasn't going to necessarily show out well. But teams are still going to go back and watch the film of Malik Washington. And guys, we all saw it. We saw all 3 of those kids on the field at the same time. And the 2 best backs on the field that day both were wearing gold helmets. So I think he did a lot to solidify himself in a lot of people's minds as the second best back in the draft class. So there was talk about him being a late first-round draft pick. I have no idea if he's going to be a late first-round draft pick. But if a team thought he was that going in, he did nothing but cement their view of him coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some position. NFL GMs are so weird with the NFL draft because there are certain positions where, and let me say this, disclaimers, I think the 4.49 40 time for Jadarian Price is fantastic. But it's weird seeing some NFL GMs, they factor in the 40-yard dash more so for some positions compared to others. Like, obviously, offensive line, they don't care about 40 time as long as you don't run like an 8-second 40-yard dash. But Orlando Brown had an abysmal 40-yard dash, and he still got taken in the first round and didn't allow a sack his first 4 years or something. So it varies. Running back, to your point, Brian, is one of those positions where within some variance, it's not going to matter that much. Like if you're Audric and you had 18 rushing touchdowns, but at the combine you ran a 4.71, they'll weigh that. Yeah. But
you get
somebody
you get a 4.4, anything in the 4.4 range, you're good.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I think, and
it hurt Kyron. Kyron running a high 4.5. I think that dropped him down in the. I mean, he wouldn't have been a first round draft pick, but I think you can't look at his production in all around game and think fifth round draft pick. What hurt him? It was the testing numbers. Audric's the same way. Audric was getting buzzed as a second, third round draft pick prior to the combine. Where does he go? Fifth round. Why? Because he didn't test well. So you're absolutely correct, Trev. But anything in the 4.4s for a back is going to be
yeah. Both the first two guys that we talked about in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are two guys that Jeremiah came out and said that he's not participating in Notre Dame's pro day. And after what Jadarian just did at the combine, no.
Yeah.
And then after what Jadarian did, I would be shocked to see him at Notre Dame's pro day too, maybe outside of some specific position drills.
I could see him maybe trying to run the 40 again, depending on how fast he thinks he can run on Notre Dame's track. The only other way that I think Jadarian works out is if he's getting asked to by NFL teams.
Sure.
Because he's in that situation where he's trying to sneak into that. Because why does it matter if you get picked 32nd or 33rd? Guaranteed money. I mean, you're guaranteed a 4-year contract if you're a first-round draft pick that goes away after the first round. And, and there's the fifth year option and all that. And some people may not like that or not, but you're locked into a certain amount of money if you're picked in the first round that you're not necessarily locked into in the second or third round. So of course, and with anything else, 5 spots in the draft is going to mean millions of dollars for him. So I could see where it may be some teams are like, hey, we'd like to see a workout. We'd like to see you do this. We'd like to see you catch the ball a little bit more. So maybe he does, but he's not going to be out there running the vert doing the 20-yard. He's not going to be doing verts and broads. And, he had 20 plus reps on the bench. The only thing I could see him doing is more on-field drills and the 40. Because the thing about Jadarian, he's very confident in his ability to catch football. And I don't know that we've ever seen him drop a pass in his career. I don't know that we've ever seen him drop a pass. He's had a couple go over his head, but I could see Jadarian doing some of that, but man, if he just decides to rest on his combine numbers, I totally get it. But I don't know. I could see him because he looked very bummed about the 4.4 or 4.49, and they talked about this on the TV. He didn't turn that extra gear on. He was just normal, just Jadarian, just smooth, running. And I wonder if maybe his trainers are gonna be like, dude, if let's watch the tape. You can shove 0.05 off that thing. Because if Jadarian can get down, 4.45 or lower in the pro day, that could make him some money. But I could also say, hey, man, but what if he runs a slower time? You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's that too. I thought overall he did enough where I would think he could, like you said, Trev, not work out unless teams are just like, hey, man, we want to see you do some more drills. We want to see you do this. That's going to have to be between him and his agent. Hey, these are teams picking. And if the Buffalo Bills or something, there was some talk about the Texans. I don't know if that's going to be a thing now. They just traded for David Montgomery. But, he's getting up there in age. They could, view him as the one, and then Jadarian comes in and he's the 2 or something like that as they try to build around C.J. Stroud. But I could see something like that where teams that are picking late first round, early second round are like, hey, we'd like to see you, go through this or do that or something like that. Maybe that, but man, he nailed it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, the next couple of guys that we're going to talk about will most likely be working out at Notre Dame's pro day for various reasons. We'll talk about Billy Schrauth in a little bit, but he even came out and said he's waiting to do some of the actual testing numbers until Notre Dame's pro day, things like that. Which is
smart because it gives them about 3 extra weeks of healing and building up strength coming off of the late season injury. So that wasn't a surprise to me.
No, absolutely. Next guy that we're going to talk about, the only wide receiver in the draft or invited to the combine from Notre Dame was Malachi Fields. Some of his numbers were what we thought they were going to be. I thought he had somewhat of an up and down performance. Not good, not bad. Just there were some areas where, we talked about Jadarian not being satisfied with the 40 time. Malachi Fields didn't look overly thrilled at the time that he clocked, but he's somebody that is an interesting person to talk about with the combine. I think that there are some overreactions where people are talking about how he's completely bombed his draft stock. I'm not in that camp. I know Brian's not in that camp.
No.
But
Who is this, like NFL draft analysts are saying that, or people like on
it's
the
just a lot like a lot of the Twitter NFL draft analysts. You know what I mean? But a lot of buzz.
4.61 is not what you think it is for a 218-pound guy. I like to remind people that Keon Coleman ran a 4.61 at the combine, and he was the first pick taken in the second round. And Malachi Fields has a lot better tape than Keon Coleman had coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, where Malachi Fields really started to thrive was the actual on-the-field drills, like doing things as a pass catcher. And that's where he really started to turn it on.
Yeah, even the testing stuff, Trev, like the 4.61 was not great. I was hoping he'd get into the mid 4.5s, low 4.5s. He didn't. His vert was very good, 38 inches at 6'4.5". He measured in at 6'4.5", 218 pounds. He had a 6'9" 3 cone. He was one of only I think 5 or 6 receivers to have below a 6, below a 7. That's a very good time. The 4.35 20-yard shuttle was solid. The 6.98 3 cone was outstanding. So some of the testing, like you said, up and down, some of the testing numbers were, I wish he would have done better. Others were outstanding. And then he goes through the stupid gauntlet drill, which I've told you before, I just think is the way they've turned on, it's just a dumb drill. Had a couple of drops there, but once he got into the routes part, Trev, is where he shined. I thought his route running was good. There was a couple times he's a little bit choppy on the top end of his comeback route. Caught the ball extremely well. And then I think one of his last catches was a throw from, who was it? Well, it wasn't Drew Aller, was it? Maybe Taylor Green, maybe Drew. I forget who the quarterback was. But they overthrew him, and he had to kind of really extend and hauled it in. Carson Beck? Okay. And I thought that was big. So I thought you were correct. It was an up and down performance, but I thought he finished very well.
Absolutely.
Going through the routes on air. I mean, we were talking during the whole time. You and I were on the phone. And I thought Malachi, we were kind of evaluating what he'd done so far. And it wasn't super great. But by the end, you're like, okay, I have a different view of his overall performance because of how well he finished in drills. And that's why these guys do that. But I could see Malachi running the 40 again at the pro day. I think that would be huge. And I would imagine what's going to be interesting is who's throwing. Would CJ be throwing to him? Because you can do that now. You can have guys do that now. Or would they have somebody else throwing to him? I'd be very curious about that. Would Ian Book be throwing? Is he trying to get on a team? I'd be curious about that. But if CJ was willing to throw to me, and if I'm Malachi Fields, I'm going to run routes and catch balls again at the combine. There's no doubt. And that's something I got to try to do some research into, is who's going to be throwing to him at the combine. Because I just popped in my head, Trev. If CJ's throwing, and I'm literally just talking out of my what, because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just kind of thinking through it. If CJ was throwing to him at the combine, because remember, you can have underclassmen now do certain things. That's going to attract a lot of eyeballs if CJ Carr's throwing, you know what I mean? So, because there's going to be a lot of GMs are like, well, we'll look at next year. So, let's see this Carr kid. You know what I mean? It could create some buzz to get more eyes there, which then helps his teammates. So, I don't know what his plans are, what Notre Dame's plans are, what his agent's plans are, but that would make it very interesting. But if you're Malachi Fields and CJ is going to be throwing to you, you're going to be there. I mean, you could even just hear Eli Raridan talking about CJ Carr. You can just see it. As soon as he had the same look on his face that all the freshmen did when they were doing their interviews and they'd ask him about CJ Carr, they just had this man, look on their face. And Eli did the same thing. By the way, can I just say one thing about the combine? 6 for 6 those kids were as just representing themselves in the interviews. Just you're like, man, these are good kids. All of them nailed it. Just listen to Eli Raridan talk about his faith and his wife, and it was just that part was really cool. You're like, see, this is what I wish more of college football world got to know about these kids. This is why I wish Notre Dame would do a better job of letting these young men come on shows and do different things and be in front of the media more, because they're such awesome kids. And more people get to see that. I mean, listening to Emil Wagner talk and explain why he's involved in the community. Are you serious? This is an awesome young man. Who knows what kind of football player he's going to be, but Just a great young man. But I just thought I'd interject that. But I'm very curious to see Malachi run the 40 again at Notre Dame's Pro Day. Very curious.
Yeah, I think he'll clock a better time. Hopefully he clocks a better time at Notre Dame's Pro Day. I think all things encompassing, when you look at the performance as a whole, I think he solidified himself as a day 2 draft pick. I think it's just a question of when and where. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that he sneaks up into the first round either. But like we were talking about with the 40 time, there's just some GMs and some scouts that are just real weird about that. Like
they are. Like, I don't think he did anything to hurt himself. I just don't think he did anything to help himself. You know, like a really good 40 time could have maybe vaulted him into that top of the first, like end of the first round. And I just don't know that he had a workout that's going to do that. Now, if he goes out and crushes it at the combine or in the pro day and runs like a low, like, so what if he runs a 4.57 at the pro day? It doesn't change anything. Now, if at the pro day he runs a 4.53, that changes things a little bit, you know. But
sure.
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing with like Eli Raridan. I had hoped he'd run a little bit faster. But what's funny is people are like, well, I wasn't fast. And I'm like, yeah, it actually is that kind of fast for a guy that's 6'6" and 245 pounds. I mean, he was basically 0.01 less than Malachi Fields, you know, in his 40. But he also, I thought, Trev, had a bit of an up and down combine performance.
Yeah, he did. There were some certain areas similar to Malachi Fields where he performed well in. And then there were others that it's just, you know, we talked about Eli as the season went on about, you know, he's one of the more athletic tight ends in college football and he brings this to the table. And there were some things where it was like, okay, you see it. And then there were others, like some of the testing numbers, again, were up and down. Like putting up 20 reps on the bench, that was rough.
I think it was especially last amongst the tight ends. It was like
last amongst the tight ends. Did one
his
less
arms
than
aren't
Jadarian.
Long enough to where that's a problem. You know, like he's got 33-inch arms. That's long, but that's not like, yeah, I get why he did 20. Which is weird because you look at him, he was jacked. I mean, he was put together, but then 20 reps, you're like, huh, okay, it's interesting.
Yep. In the on-field drills, he performed well as a pass catcher. I don't think he had a drop. He ran good routes. So
Eli Raridan, one ball in the gauntlet thrown over his head that there was like no way he was getting to that. Like he couldn't get his hands up at time. It was like a crazy throw. That's not a drop. He caught everything else that came at him. Yeah.
Over the head of a 6'6", almost 6'7" tight end. That's just straight up.
When he threw it so fast, like he turned around and it's like going over his head. You're like, calm down, kid. You know what I mean? Like, but actually, I think it's scouts or something. Somebody said something like it's scouts now throwing to him. I don't know. I didn't see that part, but yeah, he's like Malachi. He didn't do anything to hurt himself, in my view, but I don't think he did anything to change his viewpoint one way or the other, which when you come out of the combine, you want to at least do that. Yeah. The goal is to, you know, hey, look, I turned some heads, and I think the 2 running backs did that. I don't know that the rest of the Notre Dame guys really did that, in my opinion. And it includes Malachi and Eli. I think they both just kind of said, okay, they are who we thought they were. And, you know, now they'll get a chance to maybe improve upon that at the pro day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Eli still keeps up the streak of Notre Dame tight ends getting drafted. Like that's
a no-brainer.
The
question now is, will he be in day 2 or will he fall to day 3? That's the only question. Like with Malachi, you know, if you thought he was a late first-round pick before the draft, you're not going to all of a sudden think he's not a late first-round pick after the draft. Like, I don't know that any scouts are thinking 4.61, huh? Wow, that's way slower than I thought he'd be. If you thought he was not fast enough to be there, then he confirmed that. You know, that's my whole thing is like, I just think they are what people thought that they were.
Sure.
And for some teams, it's going to be this. For some teams, it's going to be that. And, you know, but they're definitely both going to get picked. Like, there's no doubt about that. Unless there's some injury thing we don't know about with Eli, but I don't think that's the case. He's been hurt 3 years.
Last 2 guys were along the offensive line, and we can kind of bundle them together. They worked out in the same group, and that's Billy Schrouth and Emil Wagner. Now, different sample sizes with either, because remember, Billy's coming off of the MCL injury that he had against USC. So we only saw him in the on-field drills. He didn't do any of the testing. He's waiting until Notre Dame's pro day to do that. And like we said earlier, kind of a smart decision given what his situation is. And then Emil Wagner, we basically saw him do the most of the drills. Did, I believe, almost all of the testing. And performances were interesting. For Billy Schrouth, I talked about in the article that I wrote, at early testing, it looked like he was shaking off just some of the rust. I mean, he wasn't doing football-specific things in that setting since October 18th, and then we talk about they were who we thought they were. That's how I felt about watching Emil Wagner's combine performance.
Yeah. I was bummed for him watching the combine. Like, the 40 time was good. Like, the 501 for a 306-pound guy is good. That's a good number. That put him in top half of the NFL draft. His 10-yard split was again solid. It's a 179 solid number. But he didn't do anything in that regard that's going to necessarily like, okay, yeah, he didn't do great here, but look at all these other things, and unfortunately, I was hoping he would just perform a little bit better. What did I say he was, a 173? Was that what his 10-yard split was? 179. Yeah, the 179. I mean, that's bottom half, like middle to bottom half of the draft. The disappointing thing was some of the other stuff, Trev. He only jumped 29 and a half inches, just pretty low for an offensive lineman. His broad jump was only 9 feet. And why does that matter? Well, that shows explosiveness, lower body explosiveness. It's one of the gauges of lower body explosiveness. That's kind of middle of the pack. There's 9.10s, 9.8s, 9.7s. Monroe Freeling was a 9.7. The OT from Arizona State, who's a really good player, was 9.7. Caleb Lomu was 9.5. Blake Miller was 9.5. So his 9 was not bad, but it just wasn't, the Jennings Dunker kid from Iowa had a 9, but he's also like massive and has great film. So obviously that was a little disappointing. Same thing with the vertical jump. There's a bunch of dudes in the 30s. His 29 is bottom half of the draft. The guys that were near him are guys that are like way bigger. Like also had a 29-inch draft is Fernando Carmona from Arkansas, who was 316, and he had lost weight to get to 316. Micah Morris from Georgia had a 29 and a half inch vert. He's 334 pounds. Armez Reed Adams from Texas A&M was 29 and a half. He's 314. What did go well for him though, Travis, he like I said, the 40 time was good, and he's very long. Emil had 34 and a half inch arms. That's really good length, and 10 and a quarter inch hands. So like big hands. I thought in the drills, he looked fine. He looked solid in drills, just nothing that really, you were hoping to see something that was like, okay, cool. He's improved his stock, and I just didn't see anything that showed me that. It was just a solid overall combine. What we saw on film is kind of what we saw here. What do we not see on film, Trev? We just don't see a lot of lower body explosiveness from him on film. We don't see him coming off and driving people off the ball. We see him struggling to anchor. So guess what? You see that. There's not that lower body explosiveness. And look, here, this was always kind of my fear with Emil. I put something on the board yesterday, Trev. I know you read it, where I said, look, when I did my evaluation of him, I had him as a lower-ranked kid, like top 250 caliber kid with a 5-star upside. And I said, what's going to separate whether he's just a top 250 caliber kid or a 5-star is, as he gains weight, can he keep his athleticism? And the reality is the closer he got to 300 pounds, the stiffer he got. And you could see that in some of the stuff we saw yesterday. You could see that in the drills. You could see that on film. He couldn't keep that athleticism that he had in high school as he got bigger. And a lot of that's because he just doesn't have that frame, that great frame to put on that kind of weight like a Joe Walt did, like a Grayson McHugh does, like some other guys do. He had trouble keeping it on and keeping athleticism. And you could kind of see that at the combine yesterday, which was a bummer because he's an awesome young man. Young man. And with solid film. I mean, he's got solid film. That'll help him too.
Yeah, absolutely. His leadership characteristics, and he passed media day with flying colors. Emil Wagner is going to be that guy that the second he elects to be done playing football, he's going to be 260 pounds. Like that's just kind of the frame that he has, And so, there were some things that he did excel at. I wanted to see a little bit more explosiveness in some of the open field drills, because everything is relative to your body size. Hopefully a little bit more quickness when you're 306 pounds compared to going right after, an Armaj Reed Adams, who was, 316, 320. So up and down. And then finally, Billy Schrauth, again, smaller sample size with him because he was working his way back when he was doing some of the on-field drills. Early on, you could tell he was shaking off some of the rust, but he got in a groove. He was, he started to look a lot more comfortable out there. There were some things that they had to do just for every combine drill. Like, he wasn't as great at the long pulls as he was with like the short area bursts, those short-term or short pulls. He was a lot more comfortable in. So I'm very excited to see what he does at Notre Dame's Pro Day.
Yeah, I mean, look, the big thing for Billy is he measured in well. He measured in at 6'5", 310 pounds. He had 32 and 7/8 inch arms, means just a shade under 33, which is pretty, solid for a guard. 10 and a quarter inch hands, which is big hands. And like you said, Trev, there are certain things like the quick, short area quickness I thought from Billy was good. The change of direction got bad because his footwork wasn't the best. But when his footwork was clean, he was, good, solid change of direction. Billy played a little high on some of the stuff, which it's why on the longer stuff, he didn't look as great. Well, that was an issue for Billy. What was Billy great at Notre Dame? Everything in a box. Pass pro, getting movement in the run game, things like that. He was never like a great puller. He was never a great trapper. Gerby is. Billy was not. And part of that is because he's a little tight-hipped and he plays a little erect, as a player when he gets on the move. You get him in a phone booth, though, and he's a dog, and that's what we saw on film. And so, like, that's what – hey, look, if you're a team that just wants to pull your guard all day, you're going to like other guys better than Billy Schrauth. If you're a zone – duo team that throws the football, Billy Schrauth's your guy because he can move people and he's an elite pass blocker. And I don't think he did anything to raise questions about what you saw on film. That was the biggest thing for Billy. You got to be healthy. And the fact that he went through all the workout drills shows that he's healthy. He's in a good place there. I thought he showed some good explosiveness out of his stance, like you said. The change of direction when he kept a good base was good. The longer he has to run, the worse he looked. Like, I don't think he would have beat a meal in the 40. So, but no, look, if you liked Billy Schrauth coming into the combine, he didn't do anything that was going to make you question where you have him. And now the next key is going to be get a little bit healthier, continue to get in even better shape. Because again, you're coming off the injury. And then go to the pro day in 3 weeks and crush it there with some of that stuff. Do the bench because he didn't do the bench. Thing is, Emil, too, it's like the 21 reps in the bench. Like, I know you got long arms, but there was other guys with long arms that had a lot better than, 21 reps in the bench. It was literally the lowest offensive lineman. That was disappointing. That was disappointing.
Yeah. But overall, 6 players competed down here in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. I think at the bare minimum, to your point that you said earlier, everybody was who we thought that they were, and then the players that exceeded that helped out their draft stock. Very interested to see where they go. NFL draft is in 52 days, pro days in a couple of weeks. Very excited to see how many Notre Dame guys that get taken off the board. That'll be very, very exciting to watch.
And one final thing, and we'll do a little bit of a preview here over the next week. Maybe it'd be a fun little Wednesday topic, Trev. Keep that in mind, is projecting. We might just do it on the board. Projecting what next year's combine could look like for Notre Dame. Could be fun.
Yeah.
Like what? Because you know who's going to be the buzz of next year's combine. I mean, that next year's Jeremiah Love for Notre Dame is going to be Leonard Moore. What's Leonard Moore going to do? And I have a feeling Drake Bowen's going to have a very Drew Tranquill-esque combine performance where people are like, wow, that guy's a lot more athletic than I thought he was. Next year's combine is going to be a lot of fun. I have a feeling. I hope it's another small number, but I have a feeling it's going to be a little more than we saw this year. So,
if he has a great year along the interior, I'll be very curious to see what bench rep numbers Anthony Knapp puts up. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Whenever he elects to go.
Next year, yes. His bench number is going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because he's got long arms. That's what's going to surprise some people too.
Yes.
Like, you're just going to see it with some of these positions. You're just going to see a little bit more of a twitchy athlete coming out at some of these positions, especially in the lines. When you think about what Gerby and Anthony Knapp and hopefully Jagasol one of these days, and hopefully Ashton Craig is healthy next year at the combine. There's just Will Black's time is going to come several years down the road. It's just a different type of athlete, and I'm looking forward to seeing those. I hope some of them we don't see for a couple of years. I don't see Francis Brew for 2 years. I don't want to see Tion Gray for 2 years. I don't want to see Bryce Young for 2 years. I don't want to see Tay Johnson for a couple of years. What's Adon going to do maybe in next year's combine if he comes out early? So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing Jordan Faison's agility numbers,
man,
because those will be impressive. I don't know what his 40 is going to look like, but the agility stuff will probably be really good. But it's going to be a fun couple of years. So we'll probably have some stuff on the board about that here for the next week or so.
Folks, that's going to do it for part 1 of today's show. Don't go anywhere. We got the buy, sell, hold coming up. But before we get there, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. Anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, the best way to stay in tune and the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Brian, to take us home, really the rest of the show today here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We have the buy, sell, hold like we do every Monday here in the offseason. A lot of great submissions. Now, friendly reminder, the buy, sell, hold is not like our Friday free-for-all mailbag. This is something we like to do to give back to our premium message board subscribers at boards.irishbreakdown.com. A thread gets put up on the premium message boards, and you guys submit a topic. And then after some discussion, Brian and I will either decide whether we buy it, we sell it, or we have to put a hold on it if we just don't have all of the necessary information to make a definitive decision. Now, if you are a premium message board subscriber and you didn't get yours in time, you can always throw in a super chat. We can answer that buy, sell, hold. And then if you're not a premium message board subscriber, I recommend saving the super chat, take that little bit of coin, come over to the boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com, and you can submit all of the buy, sell, hold submissions that your happy little heart desires. But Brian, I know we have a lot of good submissions in there this week.
We do. And I'm actually adding one here real quick, Trev. So just give me 1 second, because there was a couple that came up late that I thought were good. So I'm just printing off those new cards again. But I did want to say one thing, and I put this in the chat. One of the fun things for us to do during the show is we do enjoy seeing your feedback about the buy, sell, hold submissions. Like, obviously, you guys want to hear our opinion. That's why you're tuning into the show, and that's why you're leaving your buy, sell, holds, because you kind of want to know what we think about things. But I know Trev and I enjoy your feedback. Sometimes you guys will give opinions. We're like, you know what? I never really thought of it like that. Like, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Or you may look at it differently. There's times I'll give a buy, sell, hold answer, and Trev's like, I actually think what they were asking was this. And I'm like, oh yeah, my bad. But that's part of our fun when we do the buy, sell, hold is hearing your guys' takes. Do you buy it, you sell it, you hold it? Why? And that's part of the fun for us when we do these. So, but as always, Trev, you know who gets it started for us. It's our guy, Salty of Virginia Peanuts. He will do that again for us this week as we kick off our buy, sell, hold.
The best weeks in the upcoming season are 4, 7, 10, and 13. And of those, week 13, the rivalry games is the best of all. The loss of rivalry games through either conference realignment or just cowardice, USC, seriously threatens the best part of the college football schedule.
Well, let's look at those weeks, Trev. Week 13 is usually very great. But as he said, it's becoming less and less so. The reason I think it's going to be a little bit better this year is because I think some of these rivalry games are going to mean a little bit more. I think Alabama-Auburn is going to mean a little bit more this year. Like, actually mean, not like arbitrarily fake, let's pretend it means something to justify putting Alabama in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, actually mean something more. I think Florida State's going to be a game that actually is between two, maybe not ranked teams, but like two quality teams this year. So Clemson and South Carolina, that's going to be a big game, whether it's because they're both bounced back or they're both struggling again, and the winner, hopefully keeps his job. The loser might be fired. There's always some interesting aspects of those rivalry weeks, and I think this year is going to be good. So let's go through week 4, Trev. And week 4 is, I'm going to read some of these top games: South Carolina at Alabama, Ole Miss at Florida, Oklahoma at Georgia, Texas A&M at LSU. I love how the ESPN lists all the SEC teams first. Like, sure. No bias here. And why they list them first? Because they're all TBD. They list them first. So that's always fun. Texas A&M at LSU, Texas at Tennessee. We got see if there's any good Big 12 games. Nope. No good Big 12 games that weekend that I can see. No good ACC games that I can see. So, yeah, Big 10, Northwestern at Indiana, Illinois at Ohio
Sounds
State,
like before
Oregon
you
at
read off
USC. Yeah,
before you read
that's
off what weeks 7 and 10 are, I'm willing to
yeah,
go out on a limb and say the SEC is going to carry the bulk of the slate like it did this past season too.
yeah, because they just a lot of garbage games in these other leagues, Trev.
Yeah.
Let's go your week 7, Auburn at Georgia, Alabama at Tennessee, Florida at Texas, Notre Dame at BYU. It's a good one. Arizona State at Texas Tech, Kansas at Kansas State, TCU at Baylor, Florida State at Miami, Georgia Tech at Virginia Tech, North Carolina at Duke. That's a rivalry game. Virginia at SMU should be an interesting game. Ohio State at Indiana, Penn State at Michigan, Nebraska at Oregon. I mean, so far to me, week 7 is clearly better than week 4. Would you agree?
Yep.
So week 7 moves on to the next round of
I think
the
week
discussion.
10 is, if it's the weekend I'm thinking about, that one might take the cake.
Okay, so you got Friday night games, a bunch of ACC games. Virginia Tech at SMU could be an interesting game. Louisville at Georgia Tech, Duke at NC State, it's Clemson at Syracuse. That'll be interesting. Arkansas at Auburn, Oklahoma at Florida. This is the one I think. Doesn't Notre Dame play Miami this weekend? I think,
if it's November 7th,
it is. Oklahoma at Florida, Alabama at LSU, Georgia at Ole Miss, Texas at Missouri, A&M at South Carolina, Kentucky at Tennessee. It's a rivalry game. BYU at Utah. It's a big 12 game. Florida State at BC, Miami at Notre Dame, Nebraska at Illinois, Michigan at Michigan State, Oregon at Ohio State, Penn State at Washington. So that's a pretty big one. Man. Let's go 7 again. Yeah, I got to go. Even though there's some really good ACC games in week 7, I think overall week 10 is better because you're getting BYU, Utah, you're getting a Holy War, you're getting Notre Dame, Miami, you're getting all Alabama, LSU. So you're getting some big rivalry games that weekend. Georgia and Ole Miss have played in some barn burners the last couple of years. I mean, they've played in some great games the last couple of years. I have to go week 13 on this one, Trev. Michigan State is also that weekend. Oregon, Ohio State is that weekend. So I'm going to have to go I'm actually have to go week 10 overall because I think some of those games are going to be bigger than the rivalry weekend. So, yeah, I'm going to go week 10. So I'll buy week 10. I will hold week 7, and I'll sell weeks 4 and 13.
Same order. Yeah, November 7th is going to be an absolutely loaded slate of college football, and I can't wait. Cannot wait. From Irish English, buy, sell, hold. What one current Notre Dame football player would you choose to clone 22 times to make a complete football roster? Your option. So it's actually a buy one, sell one, hold one. Bryce Young, Aeneas Williams, Drake Bowen.
Oh boy. Man, that's a tough one. Okay, I'd probably buy Drake Bowen. As of right now, I would buy Drake Bowen because, number one, I think Drake Bowen's a very good athlete, very talented player, great leader, great worker. I mean, he was almost a 2,000-yard rusher in high school. It was Indiana Mr. Football. So you give me 11 guys on offense and defense at their positions that have Drake's athletic skill, size, production, leadership, all that. That's good. I'm going to hold Bryce Young because the counter to that is he doesn't have the production. He doesn't have the technical proficiency. But good night, that kid has got freaky athleticism that you think you can coach up. And then, unfortunately, I'm going to have to sell Aeneas because, good athlete, great attitude and all that, but he's smaller. And I just don't think he's quite on the same level as the other two guys. But for me, Trev, I got to buy Drake because at some point in time, for what we know now, you got to buy the guy that's actually produced. Otherwise, you have a roster of 22 people that have all the potential in the world but actually haven't produced yet. I'm going with the guy that's produced.
Yeah. One thing is for certain with all three of these guys, you're probably going to be running a triple option offense. That's probably a given here. That's for sure. I'd probably be in the same order as you. Like if I could have a combination of the two, I would take Drake and Bryce Young, for defense, and then Bryce's size on the offensive line, I guess you could say. But yeah, by and large, I would probably buy Drake, hold Bryce, sell Aeneas. From D-Troll Hunter, barring injury, Love or Price end up having a Hall of Fame career.
You're going to hate me for this D-Troll Hunter, but I'm holding that. That is so much to put on a kid who hasn't even been drafted yet. I don't even know what team he's going to play for. So, I mean, here's a crazy thought, Trev. If he gets drafted by the Chiefs, I think that improves his chances of becoming a Hall of Famer. People may not agree with me on that, but we've seen Andy Reid in the past when he actually has a good running back run the football a lot. But you're going to have that protection of Pat Mahomes, and you become the franchise after Pat Mahomes retires. If Pat Mahomes retires before you do, because quarterbacks play forever nowadays. But I'm just going to I can't sell it because I think they both, are great talents, but I can't buy that just because that's putting so much onto a player. I mean, most draft classes only have 2 to 3 Hall of Famers, period. There's some that have a lot more. We've talked about the 83 draft class, but 2 from the same school at the same position, he said but that's asking a lot. I can't go there. I have to hold this one. I'd let maybe ask me again after we know who they got drafted by. I say yes now or buy now, and then it's and picking, Jadarian Price in the first round or first pick in the second round is the New York Jets. I'm like, well, screw that. There goes that. Now, it wouldn't be the Jets because they have Breece Hall, but you get the point that I'm making.
Yeah. I'll hold it for now. Don't even know what team that they're going to. I mean, the hardest part about running backs is their careers die off so quickly. Brian, you and I were talking about that. Not even just about Love or Price, just running backs in the NFL in general. One year they're a top 5 back in the league, and then the next year they're rotating in with another guy who's not considered to be a top 5 back in the league, and then a couple years after that they're gone. So it's just so tough. I have no idea. I would love to buy this because I think they both have the potential to be, but at the minimum I have to hold it for right now. And then to follow that up, you are as giddy as I am that we are in the month of the Clemson spring football game, I believe March 28th.
I'll probably sell it, to be honest with you, because it's not just Notre Dame. I'm obviously very disappointed in Notre Dame's lack of spring access, but lack of access limits the excitement you have for the actual game for me. It just does. And when you don't hear as much build up, it's like, okay, what am I going here to watch? That's just kind of how I am. You're seeing more and more and more teams limit what the spring games are. Ohio State hasn't tackled in a spring game in 3 years, really truly tackled in a spring game in 3 years, 4 years. So a lot of these spring games are just not as much fun anymore. To be honest with you, Trev, I just don't enjoy them like I used to. I think that's a missed opportunity by schools. It just blows my mind that institutions that are crying about how we need to make more money, aren't doing everything possible to create as much buzz as possible for an event that could potentially draw tens of thousands of paying customers to the event. So no, don't raise your prices, but create so much buzz and go on campaigns about, come to the blue gold game and do all these different types of things to, instead of getting 30,000 people, get 60,000 people at the thing. It just kind of blows my mind a little bit. Some schools get those kind of big crowds, but it's a little frustrating. But I'm just not as excited about it just because so many schools are just limiting the access that you have to get the news and the buzz that even gets you excited about those games. And then we get to these games and you're like, cool, I get to see the quarterback throw and the receivers catch, but it'd have been awesome if I could have seen somebody block or tackle or, that'd have been cool. But I will give Notre Dame credit for that. When they do scrimmage stuff, it's real scrimmage stuff. They don't do the whole two-hand touch. Like remember a couple years ago when Ohio State did that? Like they literally did two-hand touching. They don't do that. I'll give them credit for that. But like I said, I think there's things you could do that could make these events a lot more fun and entertaining for people to want to be there in person. And it's wild that they keep talking about we need more money, we need more money, we need more money, but let's miss out on an opportunity to get tens of thousands of more paying customers to our stadium to watch us perform. Okay. Whatever.
I'll say this, D-Troll. I buy the spirit of where your submission is coming from. It's another mile marker that gets us closer to the season, but big picture, I'm kind of where Brian is. I mean, it's cool. I'm more excited to see a full Notre Dame practice than I am the blue gold game. I mean, that's what spring games are. Like they're glorified practices at the end of the day. It's just practices in front of tens of thousands of people. So, yeah, I'm excited for it because it's, the first big check mark that we can kind of move past one day closer to the season. I think we're like 188 days away from September 6th. So, yeah, I'm excited.
I think they've turned spring games into glorified practices. I don't think they have to be that. And I don't love that it's turned into like that's a pejorative. Because practice is pretty flippin' important. And scrimmages used to be like this end-all be-all where depth charts were determined by how guys performed. And I hate that they've turned it into this thing, like you said, Trev, where it's like, come on, guys, no decisions are being made on how you do in a spring game. Like, why not? Why are you not taking advantage of an opportunity to find out what a kid can do in front of tens of thousands of fans? You know what I mean? Like, I just have never understood this from coaches. I'll never understand it. Like, why are you wasting an opportunity to challenge your football players in especially even like a mental way as opposed to like a physical way? I'll never get that. I'll never get that.
Yeah, I get you. Some more in here from D-Troll Hunter. Spring football games will return to TV prominence if the new NCAA penalties on spring transfers are enforced and coaches no longer have to worry about poaching.
I'm gonna sell that, to be honest with you, because I think the spring poaching thing is just a bullcrap excuse. I've said this for years. It's a bullcrap excuse for paranoid coaches to be more paranoid and to have an excuse to be private. I don't think that coaches want one more thing that people can evaluate them over and ask tough questions about and critique them on. And they don't like people saying things. Like that's what I've said. The whole transfer portal thing, that was always an excuse. You're telling me some school is going to say, man, we didn't think that kid could play, but then we saw him in a spring game, and now we're going to offer him $1 million to jump in the portal? Like, really? That's okay, sure. Whatever you say. Okay. So, no, I've never really bought that. I think that was just an excuse that they used to limit access, which was ultimately always the goal. And I'm not just talking about Notre Dame here. Coaches are a very paranoid lot in general. Very paranoid lot. And that's been true forever. So I just think it's just more of that. I don't think it'll change a whole lot. Because in order for it to be a big TV deal, you've got to have some build up to it. You got to have some buzz going in, and that comes from access to practice. And that's what a lot of coaches don't want to give. And this isn't just a Notre Dame thing. I wish Notre Dame would be different and be a leader here, but they're doing what everybody else does. And honestly, when I've talked to them about that in the past, the lack of access, they're like, well, this school has even less access. I'm like, well, okay, but that's the other school. It's not Notre Dame, but that's the excuse they use. Well, so-and-so has even less. Okay. I don't cover Georgia, so I don't care what Georgia does. You know what I mean? I cover Notre Dame. So like I'm saying, it's not just Notre Dame.
Another one here from D-Troll. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Would you rather have length at corner, receiver, or on the edge?
I would buy receiver, hold edge, sell corner. That's a personal preference. I love big, tall, long receivers. Yeah, it's great to have length on the edge, but I've seen a lot of elite edge guys that can kind of overcome that with great motors, and they know how to use that stuff. Corner to me is the one where, depending on, you can do more with with your scheme with a shorter corner than you can a edge. You know what I mean, Trev? Like if you got the Elvis Dumervilles are a lot more rare than like the Chris Harrises. There's a lot more 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" corners that don't have great length than there are 5'11", 6 foot, 6'1", 31-inch armed, 30-inch armed defensive ends. So that's why I would hold that one. If I didn't have a bias towards big, tall, long, fast receivers, I'd probably go edge number. Edge would probably be my bias. I'm at least admitting my bias as an offensive guy. Give me the 6'4" fast vertical player on the outside, and I'm going to have some fun.
Yeah, this one's pretty close for me. Like if this is just like a preference, I would probably buy corner, hold edge, sell receiver. That's probably if I had my choice of preference. Like we're seeing more and more, especially at like the NFL level, like that type of receiver is just kind of starting to get phased out. I would argue like the top 10 receivers in the league are all 6'2" or shorter. So college, it's a little bit of a different game, but yeah, I love long corners. Like that is, maybe it's just because I've watched Leonard more the last 2 years and I'm really excited to watch him in year 3, but that's probably the order that I'm in right now.
We'll have to do a study on that because when I looked at top 15 receivers, there wasn't anybody 6'4", 6'5", but there was a lot of 6'3" guys in there. So I also think part of that too is 6 foot tall corners or tall receivers have to be more. They're just not coached anymore, Trev. Like I watched Chris Brazell from Tennessee, and I'm like, they're not coaching this kid to do anything except just run fast and tall. And I think that's limited how effective some of these guys can be going to the NFL. And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate because it's absolutely a weapon. And look, here's the reality. Some team is going to go draft a 6'4", 6'5" guy in the next couple of years, and he's going to freaking ball out. And then the copycat aspect comes back into play. And teams start doing that. Everything's cyclical. Just like running backs didn't used to have value, there's going to come a time in the next 15, 20 years where all of a sudden running backs start being valued again. Because some team goes out there and says, well, everybody's kind of built to stop the pass, so we're gonna go get the next Derrick Henry and build a team that can do this. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that's why these things always cycle in and out.
And then Notre Dame will have the highest number of combine invites for next year's draft.
Can I hope sell this one? In all seriousness, I think Notre Dame, in my opinion, I think we're going to see Notre Dame and Texas, maybe Oregon are the top 3 contenders for that number next year. I could see a world in which Notre Dame plays for the title against Texas, and Texas is the one that has more guys at the combine because Texas has more guys that are going to either be out of eligibility or at that age where they leave. So, and also more guys that maybe have the reputations that maybe some Notre Dame guys have. But I think Notre, like, okay, some of y'all won't like this, but I think CJ Carr will get invited to the combine next year. I think that Jordan Faison will get invited to the combine next year. I think that if he's healthy and plays a full year, you could see Ashton Craig. I could see one of Knapp, Lambert, or Jagasol potentially being in the combine next year. I think Boubacar is going to be in the combine next year. I think Jason Onye will be a guy that gets invited to the combine next year. I think that Drake Bowen will get invited to the combine next year. I think Leonard Moore will get invited to the combine next year. I think Christian Gray will get invited to the combine next year. I could see a world in which Adon Schuler and or Tay Johnson gets invited to the combine next year. And that's not even getting to some of the portal guys. Like one of the D tackles breaks out, they could go. DJ McKinney, what kind of year does he have? He may be a guy that gets a combine invitation next year. So I think Notre Dame's going to be double digits next year in combine invites. When I look at Texas's roster, Trev, I just see more. You're done after this year. You're done after this year. You're done after this year. than Notre Dame, because a lot of the guys I just mentioned, and you could maybe mention like a Bryce Young, because if Notre Dame plays for the title, some of these guys that maybe we think are coming back in 2027 may not come back. Thinking of the offensive line, thinking of the safeties, thinking of some positions like that. Could Jalen Sneed be a guy that gets invited to the combine next year? So that's kind of part of it too. But I also think a lot of these guys at Notre Dame a lot of Notre Dame's best players will be redshirt sophomores and juniors next year. And so some of them will go, not all of them though necessarily. But if Notre Dame competes for and wins the championship, then you're going to see more guys leave than maybe we would like, because their stock is going to be as high as it'll ever be. And so you'll see a lot of them leave. So that's going to be very interesting. But I'm gonna sell, because I think Texas will, just because of what I just said. But I think Notre Dame's going to be in the top 3 next year.
Yeah, all things considered, I think you nailed the top 3 teams of what it's going to be, but I'm going to hold, because I don't know if I can definitively sell it, but I don't have the confidence to buy it either. I'll hold it for now. But I think
Ohio State's going to have a little bit of a smaller number next year too, because I think Ohio State's going to be a relatively young team in a lot of their premium positions also.
Yeah,
where guys are going to, a lot of first-year starters, maybe guys that aren't quite ready. They'll have a decent number, Jeremiah Smith, obviously, but I think some of the teams that I look at that I think are a lot of times have high combine numbers won't be having as many guys go pro, or just don't have the rosters that they've had in the past. But yeah, that's where I'm at with those teams.
Spring ball is what you consider to be the start of the new season.
No, for me, it's when the first winter roster gets released. That's always been my thing, Trev. Because you got to think about Detroit Hunter. I look at this from a coaching standpoint. And the start of a new season for me is when my players get back from the winter and we have our first meetings and we start our winter workouts. That's when the team starts coming together. And then you say, well, yeah, but you've got new guys to show up. Well, then spring doesn't change that. Then you're like, okay, really, it won't be till summer that we know when the full roster comes together. That's when Ian Premer shows up. That's when Teddy Gerard shows up, and Nichols, Gregory Patrick. But for me, it's more so winter workouts. Now, what makes it interesting, Trev, is coaching changes. Coaching changes can make it to where you say, well, yeah, you had this going on in January, but you didn't even know who your staff was going to be, and now this is where you're going to be. So I get where you're coming from, and I sell that, but I totally get where you're coming from. I still think, just from me, coaching standpoint, I'm going to sell it, because it's winter workouts is when I consider the season starting. That's when the first time the majority of your team really comes together.
Yeah, I'm a short memory person. The second the season is done, I think it's the start of the new season. It's time to start putting in work for the next following year. I mean, sure, there's still going to be players that declare have to make decisions to come back. Maybe it's also just because I was ready for the new season to start 5 minutes after noon on December 7th, and I was ready to see Notre Dame in 2026. But by and large, most years, it's the second the season is over, it's like, all right, well, on to 2026, or on to the following season, on to 2025. Depending on where they end. I mean, after Notre Dame lost in the national championship game on Tuesday morning, when I woke up after we did the post-game show, I was ready for 2025. And that's kind of when it starts for me. And then overall offensive line development has regressed throughout college football, and a lot of these coaches are just relying on raw talent and measures led to get by.
Yeah, we got asked that question last week, and I agreed with it then, and I agree with it now. I buy that, yes. There's the emphasis on technique on the offensive line is not what it was across the board. Now, there are some teams that still do that, which is why Iowa keeps pumping out big-time linemen, because they still value that. But there's a lot of that happening in college football right now. A lot of that. Like if Alabama last year would have had a Harry Hiestand type of offensive line coach, that team would have looked way different, Trev.
I mean,
because they didn't lack talent.
No, not at all. I mean, look at what Bob Bostad did at Indiana. I mean, that's a prime example right there of a coach that still values teaching technique and good hand placement, good footwork. Imagine if Bob Bostad had guys to work with like a Will Black or an Anthony Knapp or a Charles Jagasaw or a Gerby Lambert or an Ashton Craig, a Billy Schrouth. What would that offensive line would have looked like? I'm just using that as an example because I can list off more Notre Dame offensive linemen compared to any other school. But yeah, this is a big buy for me.
Before we move on, I wanted to make sure D. Troll Hunter didn't have any more. Before we move on to the next person, we did have a super chat that came in. So I wanted to get to the super chat that came in during D. Troll's beginning before we moved on to the next person.
From Beezer 12 Washingbeard, buy, sell, hold, a team of nothing but running backs would win it all in a tournament between all the other position groups. Full contact.
Sell, linebackers. For the same reasons you're thinking it's running backs, I'm going linebackers. Because I think, number one, linebackers are going to be better in the trenches than running backs. And then you'll have plenty of linebackers that can play running back. Like if Notre Dame, okay, put a Drake Bowen type of guy at running back. You know what I mean? Like, and call it a day. I'm going to take that guy in the hole over Jeremiah Love that played linebacker. You know what I mean? So I'm still going. You're going to have some Josh Burnhams, and then if some teams that play 3-4, they've got some outside linebackers that are basically you're going to have as be 250, 260 pounds. So, back in the day when maybe you had fullbacks, maybe. But no, in that type of situation, it's a fun thing to think about. It'd be linebackers. And linebackers are so much more athletic now that you just can't out-talent them. I mean, go look at Arvell Reese. Like, what's going to win the day? A team made up of a bunch of Arvell Reeses or a team made up of a bunch of Jeremiah Loves? Well, the team that made up a bunch of Jeremiah Loves is going to have athleticism advantage, but the team made up of Arvell Reeses are going to get to the quarterback before he can throw the ball to Jeremiah Love or hand the ball off to Jeremiah Love because you're going to have those big advantages in the trenches. So now in a 7-on-7 tournament, that might be a little bit of a different conversation. But if we're going to do 7-on-7, I'd say quarterback. Because you have a lot of quarterbacks that play receiver, Trev. A lot of quarterbacks that play two ways in high school. But in 11-on-11 full contact, it's linebackers. That's my pick. What say you?
I'd probably go tight ends for a lot of the similar reasons that you talked about being in the trenches. Because tight ends now come in so many different sizes and skill sets. And it's very, very broad, as do linebackers. I'm just going with similar range of skill sets and like athletic ability, just more size with tight ends. That's probably because for every, Kenyon Sadiq that's running a 4.4 40, you also have like the Darnell Washington guy who's like 6'8" and a McDouble away from being a left tackle. So that's probably that the range is what I would go with tight end.
Good one. Thanks for the super chat, Beezer. We appreciate you. Now we can get into grubbing up Heisman.
Buy, sell, hold these coaches' press lines. First one is can't do it, can't win with them. Second one is they are who we thought they were. Number 3 is playoffs.
So I'm going to buy, sell, hold it from the standpoint of most memorable, entertaining. That's the playoffs one because you can use it for so many different situations. That's obviously is Jim Mora. They call me playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. That was a classic. Next one for me would probably be I just have always liked the Mike Singletary one. It just can't do it, can't win with them. Just that always kind of stuck with me. And then I'll sell the Denny Green one. They are who we thought they were because number one, I don't think it was necessarily accurate, but I also think his was a little bit more. He lost it a little bit in that one. You know what I mean? Where the other two were kind of more funny. His was a little bit more full of anger, but he was a heck of a football coach though. But yeah, that would be my order. Buy, playoffs, hold, can't do it, can't win with them, can't do it. Mike Singletary, and then the third one would be I'm selling the Denny Green one.
Yeah, I'm with that order too. Archer brought up a good one in the chat that I thought was going to make an appearance in here. The Mike Gundy one. I'm a man. Come after me. I'm 40.
Oh, that's at the top. That's at the top. Now he went with NFL. Obviously, this is all NFL stuff.
Very fair.
Mike Gundy's was a college one, but yes, yeah. The I'm a man, I'm 41 is a great one. It's a great one. Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite college ones. There's no doubt.
from Joe Alt, superfan. Ain't no 6 like 76. Hypothetical coaching scenarios. First one, Bob Bostad will be at Notre Dame some point in the next 5 years, giving us Harry Heatstein 2.0 and will propel Notre Dame back to being the undisputed O-line U.
There's 3 of them, so we'll read them all. I think he wants a buy, sell, hold, the 3 of them.
Buy one, sell one, hold one.
Sell one. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on. Mike Mickens, after coaching the 1 to 3 years in the NFL, we'll see him back at Notre Dame as defensive coordinator. Or 2026, we'll see Carr, Minchie, and Angeli have very successful seasons, so much so that Gino Guidugli will be off to the NFL. His successor, however, will be a former Notre Dame quarterback.
So I'm buying Bob Bostad being the offensive line coach in Notre Dame. Like, I love Mike Mickens, but, man, you give me Bob Bostad as the offensive line coach. Let's just say Joe Rudolph does a really good job this year and he goes to the NFL, and you think about the talent that's been recruited to this program, and you think about Bob Bostad coaching that. I mean, think about that. Bob Bostad, look what he did with Carter Smith. What in the world is he going to do with Gerby Lambert and Will Black and Grayson McHugh and James Halter? You know what I mean? Like, what is he going to do with Ben Nichols and Tyler Merrill and Sullivan Garvin? And you know what I mean? Like, good night. Thank you very much. I would hold the Mike Mickens one. You know, thrives in the NFL. He's back as the coordinator at some point in time. I'd love that one too, but you know how I am with offensive lines, Trev. And then I'm selling this one just because I don't know what former Notre Dame quarterback would return as a coach. Like, who's even coaching? Like, Tom Clements is. I mean, is he still coaching? Yeah, I know he's in his 70s, right? Is he still coaching?
The only one that I could even see would be Tommy Rees, and I don't think he leaves being the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons to be Notre Dame's quarterback coach again.
No, he's taking demotion. He's not going to be the offensive coordinator. Like, no, he'd become a position coach for an NFL team. I don't see that one at all. And I mean, Ian Book's not getting into coaching. So yeah, Tom Clements, I think, retired after 2024. So yeah, I can't go there with you on that one. I mean, I could see the first part of that. Like, I was with you with, like, okay, they all do well. Yeah, I see that. Gino's off the NFL. Okay, cool. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, like Malik Zaire, he's coaching high school, and I don't even know that I'm not even 100% sure he's going to be coaching this year. But yeah, I don't see that one. Here's one real quick super chat from Beefeater. You guys are getting worse every day, and right now you're playing like it's the middle of next week. From Herb Brooks. I never heard him say that. That wasn't in the movie, was it? I don't think that one was in the movie, but that's a funny one. Thank you for the super chat.
Getting into part 2 of the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We got the buy sell hold going on today. Getting us kicked off here in part 2 of the buy sell hold is Joe Alt, superfan. Notre Dame football will repeat what the Notre Dame lacrosse team did after their playoff snub in 2022.
I mean, look, I've gone on record already of saying, Trev, that I think this team is the best team in college football. So, you know, yeah, buy that. I'll buy that.
It's a definite buy for me as well. And I hope that they do it. And I think that they will. Then another one from Joe Alt. Notre Dame, being 12-0, will not get a first-round bye due to conference bias or Notre Dame choosing to host instead of sitting idle for 3 weeks.
Well, I'd have to look into this, Trevor, but can teams deny can teams deny hosting? Can they say, hey, we don't want to host? I don't know that that's a thing. So
yeah, well, I don't think that they can. If Notre Dame comes in at 1 through 4 in the playoffs, I don't think they can be like, nah. Like,
yeah,
they can't forego a bye. Yeah, they can't forego a bye to elect to take a home game.
Right. So I don't know that. Like, now maybe that's a rule, and somebody could point that to me, but I'm not aware of that. But at 11-1, if Notre Dame's the first or second best team in the country, at 11-1, I could see Notre Dame not being in the top 4. At 12-0, Notre Dame will be in the top 4. I mean, guys, they've been in the top 4 twice already at 12-0, and they made the top 4 another time in the last 15 years with a loss. You know, so I mean, they made the BCS title game as the number 1 team in 2012. They made the playoff as an undefeated team in 2018, and they made the playoff with a loss in 2020. And they made the playoff with and so the reason now they made the playoff more recently, but they weren't in the top 4. The reason I'm pointing those other playoff years is because you had to be in the top 2 or 4 to make those. So 12-0 Notre Dame is not going to be left out unless Trev, there's a scenario where the 4 conference Power 4 champions are all undefeated. Like I don't see that, or at least 3 of the 4 are undefeated, and one of them loses really early. Let's say Ohio State loses at Texas and then just destroys everyone else they play the rest of the year, wins the rest of their games, and then beats Oregon in the Big 10 title game. I could see a world in which a 12-1 Ohio State with their resume might have a better resume than a 12-0 Notre Dame. I could see that. But that's not happening 3 more times. You know what I mean? Or 2 more times. There aren't many of those that I would say I agree with.
Well, and you also got to factor in too, like with the ACC alone. I mean, I think Miami is currently the favorite to win the ACC this year. If Notre Dame is 12-0, it would be impossible for the ACC champion to also be undefeated. So there's that factor in it as well. If Notre Dame's undefeated, they're going to get a bye. A better conversation would be not better conversation. A more like where I could see the argument going is, should they be number 1? I don't think that they should be number 1 if there's an undefeated conference championship winner, somebody that's 13-0 versus Notre Dame's 12-0. Given what the resumes may look like, I could see that bumping Notre Dame down from number 1. But if they're undefeated, they get a bye.
Definitely get a bye. There's very few teams that I think, Trevor, would have an argument to be ahead of an undefeated Notre Dame with they'd have to be undefeated. But there are a couple teams that I'll say it again about Ohio State. There are a couple teams that I think you can make a case for getting a bye, getting the number 1 seed even with a loss. And I'll point out again, let's say Ohio State loses by a field goal or a touchdown on September 12th at Texas. Really close game, real competitive game. And the rest of the way, they beat Illinois. They go on the road and beat Iowa. They go on the road and beat Indiana. They go on the road and beat USC. They beat Oregon at home. They go on the road and beat Nebraska, and they beat Michigan at home. And let's assume that Iowa, Indiana, USC, Oregon, and Michigan are all what people think they are preseason. And Texas is what people think they are preseason. Then I could see Ohio State at 12-1, then winning a rematch against Oregon or Michigan or Indiana in the Big 10 title game, saying like, look, overall, your resume is stronger. Yes, you have a loss, but that's because you were challenged a lot more than Notre Dame was. If Notre Dame's schedule is what people think it is, let's say Miami's really good, BYU and SMU are okay, Navy's a G5, and the rest of the teams suck. Like, I could see that. But that's not happening 3 more times. There'd have to be at least 2 more undefeateds, or if not 3, and then a team like an Ohio State. And there just aren't enough schedules like that, Trev. Texas might have a schedule like that, but again, that's assuming the teams are what they think they are. So it'd be like the scenarios in which that would happen would be so hard to fathom. Like, so hard to fathom for that to be the case. I think the only debate is, like Trev said, are they the number 1 seed or not? I really think that's the only debate in that situation.
It'd almost be as hard to fathom as watching a team make the playoffs who lost by 21 points in their conference championship game and also had a week 1 road loss by 14 points to a 5-7 team.
Yeah. Similar, yeah.
Hard to fathom. Be crazy if that ever happened.
I like what you did.
Be wild. From Joe Alt Superfan, one of Navy or Hawaii makes the playoffs and will get the first playoff win for a G5 program.
Sell. I buy the first part. I think one of those. I mean, those are 2 good football teams coming back, Trev. Hawaii's got a lot coming back from last year. Navy loses some really good players, including Eli Heinreich. And I felt so vindicated when he ran a 4.44, because you and I have been talking about how, like, dude, you guys don't understand how athletic this kid is. Like, this kid's a legit Power 4 football player. And I think Eli Heidenreich showed that at the Combine on was it Friday? So that was good to see. Or did he compete on Saturday? What day was the running? It was Saturday.
Saturday.
Didn't there? Yeah.
Well, wide receivers and running backs both went on
Yeah.
Saturday. So yeah.
And they had him playing running back, I think, right? They had him going through drills as a running back. So yeah, he impressed as well. But I don't know that they're going to win because they're probably going to be an 11 to 12 seed. I don't think
I was just about to say maybe this is a slight exaggeration, but this is how I feel. I don't know if a G5 team is going to get a playoff win while in this current format. That's just so tough. If there was a team that was going to do it, it was going to be the Boise State team with Ashton Genty. Like they got to buy. I mean,
Yeah.
and even then, so
they kind of screwed themselves by being as like the system. I think hurt them. I would have loved to have seen that team as a 12 seed. You know what I mean? Like that would have been interesting to see. But who would they have played as the 12 seed? They'd have played
Texas
at Penn State.
They would have played Texas. Wouldn't they have?
No. Because if we're looking at the current rules of the way that the rankings are put together, they would have been a top. Like Texas was, I think, 4th that year, and then got dropped down because of the format that bumped Arizona State and Boise up. Let me go look at the rankings because I thought it'd have been Penn State or maybe it'd have been Notre Dame. No, they'd have played Notre Dame on the road last year. And that you know what I mean? Like that would have been the problem. I'm pulling up the college football playoff rankings.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying if it was this year's rules, but the 2024 playoff field.
Yes.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But here's what I've said. The reason, based on what the rankings were, they'd have played Notre Dame. But here's what I've said. I think that if they were going with the old system where, the play, I still think they would have had Notre Dame ahead of Penn State. The way that they looked at it in the past. And then they got to play Penn State on the road. I wonder how that would have been. But if the system was the way that it is now, and they were the 9 seed, they would have played at Indiana. That's a game they could have won in 2024. But the problem is there's just so few teams like that, Trev. They had a generational player. You're seeing more and more of those guys aren't staying around as long as they are. Would Ashton Genty have been a 4-year player in the modern era? You say, well, dude, that was 2 years ago. Yeah, I know, but his first 2 years were in a different era where we didn't have the system that we have now with the open portal and the NIL the way that it is. It's changed so quickly. But a lot of the teams that were that good back in the day, Trev, aren't G5 teams anymore. UCF is not a G5 team anymore. So they're not in the conversation. Houston's not a G5 team anymore. SMU is not a G5 team anymore. So you've limited the number of G5 teams even capable of it, that it's going to be a lot harder to do. So now you're hoping that Boise State can be that team. If anyone's going out, this is going to be in the current era. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Boise or Navy. Because Navy's going to play some team 1 year if they can get in consistently or just get in once. They're going to play some team at 5 that has no clue how to defend the triple option. And maybe they win. Maybe. But even then, it's like, well, who's the 5? They're not beating Notre Dame in 2024. You know what I mean, Trev? And this year, I don't know that they're beating Oregon. Wasn't Oregon the 5 seed this year? So yes. I don't think they're beating Oregon, but they'd have to get some team that just has no clue how to defend the triple option. That's the only hope that they have, because at the end of the day, the talent gaps are still enormous. Like this year's JMU team was really good. They got destroyed. Boise State last year, Trev, was really good, and they got smacked by Penn State. It's going to be too hard. It's going to be too hard. You've just got to get the right matchup, and it's the right staff that just doesn't know how. Like a Bob Diaco 2010-esque, I have no clue how to defend the option type of game plan. And even then, they still might get outscored.
Yeah.
It's just going to be hard.
unfortunately. I will say this, though. There is a G5 team on FanDuel right now that does have projected odds to win the national title, and it is North Texas at plus 75,000 odds. But they have higher odds than Troy and Northern Illinois and Old Dominion, Charlotte, Ohio, and Rutgers, which there's that. So maybe
Apparently
the
they get
Mean
the memo
Green
that
can do something.
most of their team and their head coaches now in Stillwater. So,
Yeah.
okay. Whatever works. Whatever works. It's a good question, though.
Yeah. Another one from Joe Alt, all-time Notre Dame offensive line lineup. So we got Joe Alt and Ronnie Stanley at the tackle positions. Would you buy, sell, or hold that?
So we're going to buy, sell, hold each one, right? That's what we're doing. Good. I like that. Joe Alt and Ronnie Stanley at the tackle positions. I'm going to – are we going off of what they did in college, right? I'm going to sell that. I'm going to have either Joe Alt and either Aaron Taylor or Mike McGlinchey or Liam Eichenberg. Ronnie Stanley was an elite talent, but Ronnie Stanley was a little bit better in the pros than he was in college, in my opinion. I mean, even if you look at his last year, Trev, and you look at I've been fascinated by this, but if you look at like his PFF numbers, because he was still inconsistent. Even in 2015, his Hall of Fame, his All-American season. But that year, let me pull it up here real quick. Ronnie Stanley still gave up 3 sacks, 4 hits on the quarterback, and 7 hurries. He gave up 14 pressures that year. That's, that ain't great. Whereas you look at what Liam Eichenberg did his senior year, for example. Liam Eichenberg gave up 15 pressures. That's only one more than what Ronnie Stanley gave up. But Mike McGlinchey only gave up, or Liam only gave up 1 hit and 0 sacks. And then you look at Mike McGlinchey's last year at Notre Dame, he gave up 16 pressures, 3 hits, sacks, and 2 hits in 2017. So I'll buy it because I think Ronnie's in the debate. And you could pick one of those guys, but I just think there were some other guys that were a little better than him at Notre Dame. And if I had to pick one, I'd put Joe Alt at left. No, I'm gonna sell it. I'm gonna take a stand. Left tackle Joe Alt, right tackle Aaron Taylor. I'm gonna take a stand. That's where I'm going.
I think I'm gonna sell it as well, but I'm gonna go Joe Alt, left tackle, right tackle Mike McGlinchey. Should probably be mine. Yeah,
dig it.
And then how about at guard? Let's move to the interior. Buy, sell, hold Quentin Nelson and Zach Martin at the guard position.
This might be the easiest buy I've ever had on the show. The greatest guard I've ever seen at Notre Dame, and probably the best professional player that Notre Dame's ever had on the offensive line in my lifetime. And Zach Martin, as you and I have talked about a lot, Trev, without a doubt was the most underrated and underappreciated Notre Dame offensive lineman. He was so good in 2012 and 2013. Never got the attention he deserved. And, the NFL saw it. They saw it. That's why they picked him in the first round. And he had the career he had. That's an easy one.
Yeah, very easy buy. Jeff Fain at center.
Easy buy for me. Yeah. I'm winning the Joe Moore Award. Even not going with Aaron Taylor, even just this line right here. That's an elite offensive line. Yeah. Yeah. I was such a big Jeff Fain fan in college, man. He was one of the few offensive linemen that I really liked watching play when I was younger. He was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yep. Based on the pedigree that I know that Jeff Fain has, I would buy that as well. If I'm going off of players that I remember watching, I would probably take a very specific Sam Mustipher in 2017. Like that's probably who mine would be. Him or Jarrett Patterson, based off of the players that I remember. But based on his pedigree, yeah, I think Jeff Fain is the very easy buy here.
Yeah, he was so good. So good. Come on.
From B-Jam in 41, Jeremiah Love gets drafted by the Chiefs and is Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm going to sell that. I'm going to hope sell that because I'd like for him to go higher unless the Chiefs trade up. So that's reason number one why I'm going to hope sell that. Reason number two is even though I don't consider myself a Broncos fan like I used to be, I haven't completely shifted my fandom, what little NFL fandom I have, to another team, and I still have a hard time rooting for the Chiefs and the Raiders. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't have the diehard aspect that I used to have as a Broncos fan, but I still can't bring myself to wishing good for the Chiefs and the Raiders and Chargers. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just still a little hard for me. So I'm going to hope sell that one for that reason because I want him to go higher. Now, if the Chiefs trade up to get him, okay, great. But I'd rather him get picked a little higher than that. Like I saw one today that had Tennessee at 4. Wasn't it 4?
Yeah.
It's the one I sent you. Tennessee at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremiah Love and Cam Ward in the same backfield. That'd be pretty sweet.
That would be. I just have to hope with the remaining draft picks they beef up their offensive line so Jeremiah Love doesn't die. That'd be nice. Yeah. That'd be great. That would impede on his chances of getting Offensive Rookie of the Year, but that is a very strong possibility, as is him getting drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm going to sell it too. The Chiefs are just kind of that team that I just don't like. I mean, it's kind of like why a lot of people didn't like the Patriots back from, 04 to not really whenever Tom Brady left, that the Chiefs are that team now. So, but I'll still root for Jeremiah Love no matter where he goes. It's kind of where I'm at. And then the NCAA will do the right thing and make an exception to allow Wisconsin and Notre Dame players to do the Lambeau Leap. Right now, the NCAA does not allow celebrating with fans.
Sell. Number one, the NCAA and doing the right thing usually don't go in the same sentence. And number two, I just don't care. Like, the Lambeau Leap isn't what makes me excited to watch a game at Lambeau Field. It's thinking of all the Hall of Famers and all-time greats that have played on that field, the Super Bowl champion teams. And, I think of all of those things a million times before I think of the Lambeau Leap. So and don't players do that now? I've seen college players do that.
I'm not sure.
Like kind of jump right that first load. Like not in like the Lambeau Leap, but like kind of jump up there like that. If they do, great. If they don't, I don't care. B-Jam, I'm not trying to be disrespectful for your submission. It's just not something I overly care a whole lot about.
Yeah, I'm impartial. I'm with you there. If they do it, that's cool, I suppose. I also don't like the Packers, so it's like.
True, that's a good point.
So it's like when Packers players do the Lambeau Leap, I also don't care. So it's not just specific to that submission. Then Notre Dame's lowest offensive output of the regular season won't be under 28 points.
Bye. I mean, what was it? There's 24 this year. What was their next lowest output? It was definitely in the 30s. They were never held in the 20s again. Correct? Am I forgetting a game? So 24 in the opener, then 40, 56, 28 against Boise. 56, 28, and that's a game where they had, 2 drives stop inside the 10-yard line? 36. There's a couple games I've blocked out of my head, Trev. The BC at 25. I completely blocked that one out of my head. I'm still selling because they're not going to be as terrible in the red zone this year as they were last year. Even if they rank in the top 75 in red zone, Trev, that gets them into 30 in every game. So I'm going to sell that. I'm going to buy that. It won't be under 25 points.
I don't think that it will be, so I'm going to sell it too. I'll say I don't do it with a lot of conviction just because it's not total score, but offensive output. Like I don't know if there's a game where they rip off a kick return for a touchdown or a defensive touchdown, something like that.
So like 35 is 34 as a team, but they get
So that's something that I'm factoring into. If this defense is what I think that it's going to be, I could see the offense having a 24-point day, but the final score is 42-6.
I'm still tripping on the BC game. How do you only score 25 points in a game where you had a 94-yard touchdown run and like 3 40-plus yard completions?
Yeah.
Like, that was such a freaking weird game.
It was a very weird game. Like even being there in the press box, sitting and watching, I was like, this is odd. Like this just feels
just felt weird. Yeah. It was the most blowout close game I've ever seen. Like, I never felt like, oh my gosh, BC might get this one. You're just like, what are they doing? They're allowing this garbage team to hang around. This team sucks. Not Notre Dame, BC.
Another one from B Jam and Buy Sell Hold. Notre Dame's highest offensive output of the regular season won't be over 55 points.
I sell that with even greater conviction than I do the other one. And they scored more than 55 3 times this past year. They scored more than 55, let's see, once in 2024 against Purdue. And then in 23, they scored 56, 58, and 56. You had 3 games in 2023 where you scored more than that. So they haven't been held to less than 55 points or less in a game during an entire season since 2022. It's the last time they did that. So I'm going to sell that. And like with Rice on the schedule, with BC at home, with Syracuse, I mean, yeah, I'm going to sell that. They'll at least once they'll score over 55, if not multiple times.
Yeah.
I think you could make this over under on just September. You could set an over under of 1.5 in September for the number of times they're going to score more than 55 points. Between Rice and Purdue, I mean, Purdue hasn't held them to less than 56 the last 2 years.
Yeah. Are we talking just strictly offensive touchdowns or like final scores? Because offensively, they didn't score over 50 points against Purdue. Like they were 49 offensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could say that. And they were at 59 2 years ago?
Yeah. Like that being said, I'm still selling this. I just don't know if it's like I could see them. I could see them scoring over 55 points just offensively against Rice.
Yeah. I just don't see them being. I don't see it.
For sure.
I think this is going to be an outstanding elite offense. It's pretty flipping good last year. And I think it's going to only be better.
Let's talk some running backs. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Notre Dame running back duos. First duo is Jeremiah Love and Reggie Brooks. Second duo is Jerome Bettis and Kyron Williams. And the third duo is Julius Jones and Ricky Waters.
I'm literally buy, selling, and holding it in the order you gave. I mean, there's no better duo than Love and Brooks. I mean, I know Jerome Bettis was the better NFL prospect, but as far as like the more productive college player, Reggie was a lot more productive than what Jerome was there last year. It's hard for me to say that because I loved Ricky Waters and Julius Jones coming out, but like Jerome Bettis was still a monster. But like you're basically comparing, I mean, Reggie Brooks is more favorably compared to Jerome Bettis than he is Kyron Williams, with all due respect to Kyron Williams. Like Kyron is a distant fourth in that ranking of those 4 guys. So, and Ricky Waters never rushed for 800 yards in his career. And Julius was a tremendous player in 03, but he didn't really take off until that last year. I mean, you have a grand total of 1,000-yard season between the 2 running backs in that last group. I mean, every other group has one guy that did that more than once. Kyron did it twice, and Love did it twice. So I'm going to have to buy, sell, hold in that order.
Same answer over here. I'm with you. From JP is for Notre Dame. You have to buy one Olympic sport, sell one Olympic sport, and then hold an Olympic sport. Winter.
Well, the one I'm selling is that one, the skiing with the shooting thing. I've never understood what that's all about. So I'll have to sell that one. That or curling. I don't understand curling. Like, what are you doing? Why are you mopping the floor? I don't get that one. I don't understand that at all. I said this the other day, when I used to watch the Olympics, I used to love watching the Olympics. I loved speed skating. I mean, all of it. Short term, like the speed, the long distance, like all of it. I loved all of it. So I'd buy that one. Hold hockey, because if America's good at hockey, that's fun to watch. Although I don't know all the rules of hockey, but if I was gonna hold another one, the other one I used to love is I love the ski jumps. Those are pretty awesome. A lot of skiing things are like the moguls. I always thought was fun to watch. Is it alpine? Is the one they go like this? Is that called or slalom?
I think so.
What do they call it?
Yeah, slalom.
That's fun to watch. Slalom. That's fun to watch. Because there's always the possibility that they crash, and I don't mean that like I liked it morbidly, but like that's an intense thing. You know what I mean? Like, dude, they one bad turn and they're going down hard. So those are all a bunch of ones that I probably have in the hold category. The two that the one that I would sell probably more than any other is, like I said, the skiing shooting thing, because like it's terrible on TV. It's like that's just such a boring thing to watch on TV.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna sell one, there was a new Olympic event this year, and it was like straight up, it was just made up. I mean, it was they put grips on the bottom of their skis and like jogged up a hill in their skis, took off the skis, put it in a backpack, and then ran up like a half a flight of stairs, and then put the skis back on with the grips, and then went up the rest of the hill. And then they had to take the grips off of the bottom of the skis and then ski downhill. Like it was legitimate. Like it was straight up just made up. Like it was. I forgot what it was called. It was a new event this year. Like I thought it was very silly to watch them run with skis because it just looks so unathletic. So that's probably the one that I'm selling. I'm gonna buy curling. I watched it a ton when I was in Phoenix, and I loved it. It was great. It reminds me a little bit of like bocce ball, cornhole type of strategy. So I'm big fan of that. And then holding, probably hockey.
Can you explain to me then, if you're a curling guy, truly, I'm asking this genuinely, what does the mopping the floor thing do? Does it slow it down? Does it turn? Like I'm truly asking, like, what does it do?
Yeah. So yes and yes. So like it's depending on the direction that you curl it. So when you watch them throw, the direction that like the handle at the top starts spinning, like that will basically help the curlers dictate like which way to curl, like what direction. Because it like the ice isn't like it's not like a smooth surface like an ice skating rink. It's like beveled. And so like when depending on how much you curl it will dictate the direction that it goes. If you like draw it in or like fade it in, to use like a golf term. Yeah, I think it's fascinating.
But it is interesting though. It is interesting that like you see all these different sports that people feel so differently about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So somebody got real mad. I think Tommy and I'm like, I don't know what of the many things I said has him mad about my winter sports takes, but it is kind of interesting that people feel that way. But like there's not many of the long distance things that I'm a big fan of.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a big fan of, somebody said cross country skiing. I'm not a big fan of the marathons at the Olympics. I like stuff to be quick and intense, and you know what I mean? Like those are my favorite sports. I guess curling is pretty quick. So
yeah,
you know,
but yeah, the event that I was talking about, Trev's buy sell hold glasses, thought it's Skimo. That's what it's called.
That even sounds made up. That even sounds like, and by made up, what we're referring to, because obviously somebody said all sports are made up. Well, duh. But we mean made up is like they literally just like somebody like there's this comedian Josh Sneed, and he starts talking about like how things come up, you know, names come up, and he's like, you're just literally in a room making stuff up. That's how that like, okay, what if we did this? And you just think of the most absurd things possible, and they're like, yeah, let's do it and see if people will pay attention and like it.
Have you've seen How I Met Your Mother, yeah? Yeah, it's like when they went home to Minnesota and they played basketball ball. That's what it felt like. It was like they were just like, you're going to ski and run up a hill. Like I'm sorry. I think I made Pete Weber upset. So my apologies, Pete.
Yeah,
but
it's okay.
I thought it was very silly.
It's okay. It's funny how people get worked up about some of this stuff.
Like, that'd be like if I'm going to make a summer Olympic event and you're on a track and for 200 yards, for 30 or for 200 meters, for 35 of the meters, you have to do hurdles. and then you stop and then do 15 burpees. And then after the burpees, you then have to hurdle 2 more hurdles. And then you're going to go and reload into like the track sprinter starts. And then you have to catch a football.
Like, what's the one where they like climb up on top of the one like hurdle looking thing over the water, and they like it's like dumb like that. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
man.
move on.
From Father J-Pop. Buy, sell, hold. You've heard or seen things things connected to Notre Dame's program over the last month to make you more positive and optimistic about the offensive line than a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this in a show a couple weeks ago, and it goes back to the video we saw with CJ Carr where they had Anthony Knapp sort of like in a guard position and Will Black in a tackle position, and I've heard from some sources that that's what we're going to see in the spring. So yeah, that absolutely, because like it comes a point in time, Trev, where even if Joe Rudolph is the same coach technically that he was the last 2 years, but you put that lineup on the field, it's like, dude, that's a way more talented lineup than the one in 2024, and they played for a title that year as a team that was built around running the football. Like there comes a point in time where a solid coach with elite talent is going to have a pretty darn good flipping offensive line. And that's how I feel about that.
Absolutely. I mean, look, man, the biggest thing that we talked about is in the right spots. I'm confident that Notre Dame's starting offensive line this year would go Anthony Knapp, Will Black, Ashton Craig whenever he's healthy, Sullivan Absher, or Charles Jagason, Gerby Lambert in some capacity. But why is it such a big deal that they're in the correct spots? Yes, for overall ceiling, but what are some of the biggest issues that we've had about Notre Dame's offensive line? At some spots, they're not as technically sound. Well, one way to just naturally be more technically sound is putting players like Anthony Knapp, who's not comfortable in space, in the interior of the offensive line. Some of those issues will just get cleaned up naturally if people are playing the position that they're more comfortable playing. Right.
Like if you're to tell me a starting lineup of Will Black, Anthony Knapp, Ashton Craig, Sullivan Absher, and Gerby Lambert, and I'd be like, man, that's 5 really talented players. Cool. They're gonna have Will Black and Gerby Lambert at guard, and Sullivan Absher and Anthony Knapp at tackle. I'll be like, all right, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But you put Anthony Knapp and Gerby and Sullivan Absher guard, and then Will Black and Gerby Lambert at tackle. I'm like, yep, that'll play. Mm-hmm. That'll play. Because if all he does is coach the exact same way that he did the last 2 years with that group, it's going to be really good. And that's the point.
Absolutely. Here's another good one. Back to the running.
And real quick, for those who haven't seen this, because I still feel like there's people who haven't heard us talk about this. We've talked about it a few times, but I understand that different people watch different shows. I truly understand that. So basically, there's a few weeks ago, Notre Dame put a video out with, and this is the last time we'll explain it. Put a video out where CJ Carr was giving all the offensive linemen headphones. And they had the offensive linemen in their meeting room, and they had 5 chairs in each row. And in each row, they were lined up with centers in the middle, guards to each side, and then tackles each side. That's how they lined up. Well, in the middle row, where they had sort of the first team guys, they had Sullivan Absher to the right of Ashton Craig, and then Gerby Lambert to his right. Now, we had been told that Gerby Lambert was going to move back out to tackle, so that fit. Then to the left, he had Anthony Knapp to his immediate left, and then outside, he had Will Black. So obviously that cost them, oh, wow, that'd be cool. Well, I have since done what my job and reached out to people to find out, like, hey, is this like really a thing? And from what I've been told, that is a thing. We're going to see that. Is that just to start spring? Is that one of many options that they're going to have in the spring? That I don't know. But the fact that we're at least seeing that in these workouts and stuff, and I've been told that that's just kind of what the first team group is like right now. We'll see how long that goes, but that's what we've seen. So that's why it's more than just hope that he'll do that. We actually have evidence that we're going to do that. So that's what makes it a little bit different, because had we not had that, to Archer's point, I would have less optimism that he would do it if we didn't have evidence that he was going to do it.
Right. That makes sense. Let's talk running backs again. Kedron Young at 226 pounds is more dangerous than at 240 pounds.
Easily buy. That's a no-brainer buy.
Absolutely. I mean, at 226, he's still the biggest running back in the room, kind of by a lot. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest things that I loved about him last spring was how good his footwork was at 240. I mean, I can only imagine what he's going to start looking like at 226. Absolutely buy this as well.
Yep. See, I think here we go. Let's go PJC. This is a really good one. He's got a couple that were really good. This is a good one, Trev. Actually, I'm going to bring this one up because I would like to hear your opinion first. I always get to go first in the movie ones. This is from PJC 1122. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Kevin Costner sports movie. So number one, you're missing a couple real good ones here, but that says a lot. But here's what he has: Field of Dreams, Tin Cup, and Draft Day. You can go anyway. You can go which is the best movie or which movie you like the best, because sometimes the movie I like the best is not the best movie. There's a difference. So go whichever way you want to go, Trev.
I'm going to buy Draft Day. I know that. I'm torn between Field of Dreams and Tin Cup. I'll probably hold Field of Dreams and sell Tin Cup. I love golf, but I think Field of Dreams is just a better movie than Tin Cup. I think it's more nostalgic, but I love Tin Cup. It's just like I like the golf. I think it's a fun movie to watch. But I'd go buy Draft Day, hold Field of Dreams, sell Tin Cup.
First of all, you have to have For Love of the Game on here. Like, that was a great movie. Second of all, how do you not have Bull Durham on this list? Like, but maybe he wanted to do some different types. Fair. Of these three, I'm going to buy Field of Dreams, hold Draft Day, sell Tin Cup. I didn't love Tin Cup. It was fine. I didn't love it. I thought Field of Dreams is a great movie, and I enjoy it more. Draft Day is fun. It's entertaining. I like it. It's not a great movie, but it's fun. I enjoy that movie. I watch it every year before the draft. Every year before the draft. I always find it funny when I see like draft nerds on Twitter, like losing their minds about how terrible Draft Day is. It's not remotely. I'm like, guys, it's a movie. Like, how do you wrap up a months-long process of the draft in a 2-hour movie? Come on. Just relax and enjoy the movie, But, it's an entertaining movie, but Field of Dreams is the one I have to go with. You. Have you ever seen For Love of the Game, Trev?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts? You buy, sell, or holding that movie?
Oh, I'd buy it. I mean, yeah.
It's a great movie. So he said he wanted to get different type of sports. I still think Bull Durham is Kevin Costner's best baseball movie above Field of Dreams. Because he wanted to go – basically what I'm reading PJC is that's fair. He said he wanted to do like baseball, golf. He wanted to do different sports. Then he said Bull Durham would have been too easy of a buy. That's fair. So like that would have been an easy one. So PJC, now that you've explained it in the chat, I totally get why you don't have Bull Durham in there, because that'd have been a no-brainer. So here's my question for you, Trev. I'm going to do a little extra one. You have to buy one of the two, Field of Dreams or For Love of the Game.
For love of the game, I would buy that.
Good answer. Yeah. I liked Field of Dreams a lot. I would have taken For Love of the Game. I would have. Good one. So yes, I now that he's explained it, not having Bull Durham makes total sense to me. Got a couple more from PJC.
Lou Holtz is the best big game coach in your lifetime.
Certainly from Notre Dame, yes, no doubt. Certainly from Notre Dame. One of the best all time, I would argue. His bowl record was nuts. Like, he lost his first one, and then the only other bowl game he lost one to Florida State. In a game they had no business being competitive against Florida State. And then like they beat Colorado and a number one Colorado. They beat top 5 A&M twice. Obviously beat top 5 West Virginia. He beat USC every year except his like last couple. They tied once and he lost once, like late in his tenure. You think of the Sugar Bowl, like he was a huge big game coach. The games I got worried about with Lou Holtz during his tenure, Trev, were like, how do you lose at home to Stanford, who went 5-6 that year? Like that happened in the early 90s. You're like, I don't understand why you're losing that game.
Sounds similar to a coach that we hold near and dear to our heart that is currently at Notre Dame right now.
Yes. Longer track record of the big wins, but yes, he was great. I mean, Urban Meyer, hate him or love him or hate him, is a tremendous big game coach. Big game coach. So he's in that conversation too. Nick Saban obviously is a great big game coach. So yeah, because big games for me aren't just bowl games. It's also how do you do against your rival? Well, Urban Meyer dominated Michigan, literally never lost to Michigan, correct? He never lost to Michigan. Because they beat Michigan in 2011, the year before he showed up, and then didn't lose again until it's like a 14-game win streak.
Yeah.
Didn't lose again until 2022?
Yeah.
Right? No, that was after Urban. So, he lost the Orange Bowl to Oregon to Clemson, obviously lost a playoff game to Clemson. I mean, he lost big games too. Everybody does, but he was a pretty darn good big game coach also.
Yeah, I'm going to plead the fifth on this one. I don't want to sell anything that has Lou Holtz involved, but
I bought it at Notre Dame for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Of my lifetime, for sure.
Yeah. It's in my lifetime is my hiccup here. So I'm going to plead the fifth. Can't sell anything with old Lou. Carnell Tate. Bisol hold Carnell Tate getting a top 5 draft prediction is too high for him.
I buy that. I think Carnell Tate's a really good football player. I don't see him. Somebody in the chat earlier, and I'm not sure who it was, said it was like kind of odd seeing him projected to be taken the same place as like a Jamar Chase and a Malik Neighbors. And I completely understand that. Completely get that. Carnell's a very good football player. He's a first-round draft pick. I do not see top 5 pick. Same with Makai. I don't think any of the receivers are top 10 picks this year. I see Makai Lemon as a constant top 10 NFL draft pick. He's a good player. He's not on the same level as like Malik Neighbors and guys like that. I just don't see it. So I buy that it's too high for them.
Yeah. Overall, it's just a lackluster receiver class, top to bottom.
Lackluster draft class in a lot of ways. I mean, really.
Yeah, agreed. But I'm buying this as well. Carnell Tate's a good player. He's not a top 5 NFL draft pick.
I don't. Are there any receivers that you would, if you were doing draft grades, you view as like a typical top 10 draft pick, caliber draft pick? I don't.
No,
I don't think any of them are that guy.
No, I don't either.
Yep.
From Eddie82, Bisol hold the upside for Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton equals Love and Price.
Coming out, yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, look, I can only go by this, right? I can only compare them to where I had those two guys coming out of high school. And Osborne and Walton are very similar in how I projected them coming out to how I projected Love and Price. So, yeah, certainly capable of it. Now, do I think that they'll be like top 5 NFL draft picks, combine freaks? That's a different question for a different day. But if I look at it from a dominance at the college level, then yes, I could see them being that. Yeah, I'll buy that. The potential to be so. Well, it's asking a lot of them. Yeah, I was asking a lot of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price to be that good as well, but they ended up doing it. They have the potential. So I'll buy that their upside is there. And Eddie, I appreciate the way you asked this submission because you didn't say predict that Osborne and Walton will be Love. He said the upside for them is the same as Love and Price. And then that regard, yeah, I would buy that. Well,
how about this one? Same thing. Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton is greater than the upside for Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young.
Say that again.
The upside for Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton is greater than the upside for Aeneas Williams and Kedron Young.
Oh, sure. Yeah. By a little bit, not by a lot. I liked both of them coming out of high school as well. Yeah. Yep. It's close. It's amazing that they've been able to land some of these duos, though. Now, obviously, Price and Love weren't a duo, but like you think about Audric and Logan Diggs in a class, and then Kedron and Aeneas, Javion and Jonas. You even think back to the 15 class that had Josh Adams and Dexter Williams. You think of the 13 class that had Taurine Folsom and Greg Bryant. They've been able to land some really outstanding duos at Notre Dame in the last decade plus. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. There's no shortage of talented running backs that have been coming in and out of South Bend the last decade. That's for sure. The only one that I hesitate on is just will equal Love and Price, like even with the upside, because it's just so hard. But I mean, I think they have the potential to get there. I do.
Agree.
Getting into the third part of the buy, sell, hold here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We have buy, sell, hold going on, and Eddie82 is getting us kicked off here. One of Love or Price will have more NFL career rushing yards than Ricky Waters. What do you think?
I mean, that's kind of the same question we got asked earlier. I have no idea. I mean, there's two aspects to it. Number one is they don't run the ball as much as they used to in the NFL, number one, but they play more games. Lifespans of running back to the NFL now is shorter even than it used to be for different reasons now. Trev, you made a comment to me the other day. You said something along the lines of like, once a running back nowadays goes, he goes. And it's like, yeah, it's true in today's game. It didn't used to be that way because the game wasn't as built around speed and explosiveness to the same degree that it is now. So when you lose a step, you're just not that guy anymore. Where guys could kind of grind out, yards and much deeper into their careers than they could now in a very different era. That factors into it as well. But it'd be really asking a lot for me to make that prediction. Having said that, if Jeremiah Love, if you're a top 10 NFL draft pick, that's kind of the expectation, right? I mean, don't you expect an NFL draft pick, a first round top 10 NFL draft pick to have at least an 8-yard career averaging 1,000+ yards a year? I mean, that's kind of what that would be. If he's at 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards every year on average, then that gets him there after 7-8 years. I mean, so I think that's what you expect of a top 5 to 10 draft pick. So I don't know whether he will or won't, but the expectation will be there for him, for Jeremiah Love. Jadarian Price, a little bit of a different story. I don't know you'd take him late first, early second to think he's going to be a 10,000+ yard rusher. You always hope, but I don't know if that's necessarily the expectation.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I think Jeremiah Love has. Now you also have to factor in too, they play one more regular season game. I mean, so when people talk about like being an 1,000-yard rusher, I think that needle kind of has to move a little bit too. I mean, like you rush for 1,000 yards in 17 games. I think you're under like 65 yards a game.
Yeah.
I mean, so with the extra regular season game, yeah. And I mean, shoot, if Jeremiah Love gets
Chase Brown this year, Trev, rushed for 1,019 yards in 17 games. He averaged 59.9 yards rushing. There were, let's see here. There were 11 backs. Let's go 10 backs that averaged 70 yards or more this season. Rushing yards per game. That's not a lot. It was 18 such backs in 2003 that averaged over 70 yards.
Yeah.
So in 2003, there were 12 running backs that rushed for over 1,200 yards in 16 games. That's so that what did I say? That's 12. Let's go back to this year and 25 regular season. There were 9 backs that did that this year in a longer season. So, yeah, it's just the game has changed. Even with the more games, you just don't see people focus on it. But like Trev's point, rushing for 1,000 yards isn't what it used to be. And look, there was this debate in the 80s and 90s too, when you'd see these guys passing Jim Brown and like rushing yards in a season. People are like, well, hold on a second now. Jim only played 14 games. And they'd have that debate back then too, because they used to only play 14 regular season games. And then they expanded it to 16 games. And you'd have these same kind of conversations, Trev, where it's like, I'm trying to compare what Walter Payton did to what Jim Brown did. And it's like, well, Jim Brown did that in 14 games. This guy, so that debate's been around for a while. I just think people need to have the proper context. It doesn't diminish. 1,000-yard season is still a good year in this era where teams don't run the ball as much as they used to, but you have to put it into a little bit of context. they're also not running into the boxes now that they used to have to run into. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
The 3-4, Giants, 1980s Giants defense is not really something you have to run into anymore. So now you're facing nickels and sub packages and all this other kind of stuff. It's a little bit different than it
Now
used
it's
to be.
about looking at explosion numbers and like how efficient of a runner you are. Like Najee Harris is a prime example. Like I know one of his big things is, he was in 1,000-yard back every year. He was in the NFL for like his first 4 years. And it's like, and he averaged like 4 yards a carry. So it's just different. Yeah, he had 1,042 rush yards on 300 carries. Like you would kind of hope if you were getting fed that much when he was with the Steelers, that's what your numbers would look like. So yeah, just different.
And by the way, just to point out a thing that somebody said, it was 12 games for Jim Brown, not 14. That's not what I'm talking about, Joe Mark. I'm talking about his single season high, which Jim Brown did in 1963 when he rushed for 1,863 yards. He did that in a 14-game season. So yes, part of his career was during a 12-game season, but Jim Brown from 1957 to 1965 was his career. He played 4 years in a 12-game season and 5 in a 14-game season. So he was in both. But what I'm referring to is his high season of 18 plus 100, which is the mark that people will point to. What would he have done that year if he played 16 games? And that's the point that I'm making. And for the record, let's see that year, 1863 divided by 14. If he would have played 16 games, he would have rushed for 2,129 yards. If he did that in a 17-game season, that's 133 yards a game. He'd rush for 2,262 yards. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's decent.
He averaged 6.4 yards per carry that season. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Not bad at all. He was pretty good. He was one of those weird athletes that was like in the wrong era. You know what I mean? Like, how people say, well, if you took a guy from that era and put him to, nope, not Jim Brown. You could plug Jim Brown into any era athletically and he's going to dominate. Sure. You could put Bo Jackson in any era. You took Michael Jordan and put him in any era and he'll dominate. They're just those rare athletes that are just like, no, he was bigger than everybody else and he was faster than everybody else. And he was, you know what I mean? Like he was a freak of an athlete. Great lacrosse player too. So yeah, but Jim Brown was listed at like 6'2", 230.
Man,
Trev, like he was a big guy.
It's a big dude.
Guy. Yes, and a great athlete. He was a lacrosse player at Syracuse. Could you imagine trying in the 40s and 50s? In the 50s, trying to cover, actually would have been in the 50s. Could you imagine in the 1950s, you're playing D1 lacrosse and you're having to go against Jim Brown, who's 6'2", 230? Come on, man. Give me a break. He was
I
a
just
legend.
wouldn't play.
Yeah, I'd fake a hammy. I'd fake a major hammy. There's no doubt about it.
I'd end the rivalry and play San Jose State.
There you go. That's a good one. I dig that. I'd end the rivalry and play San Jose State. Very well done, Trevor. Very well done. We have some more from Eddie 82.
Vice, I'll hold one of Osborne or Walton will have a college career greater than or equal to Price.
Bye. But that's only because Price had to play behind Jeremiah Love. But yes. Bye.
Yeah, I think that the injury to his freshman season, because like, look, there's a chance that if he doesn't get hurt his freshman year, he doesn't even get the opportunity to play with Jeremiah Love in the capacity that he did in 24 and 25, if he doesn't get hurt in 22.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll buy that as well. And then at least four of the current running backs in the room will one day make an NFL roster and have at least one carry in an NFL regular season game.
At least four?
There's like five in the room.
I'm going to sell that just because so many things happen. Injuries, guys not panning out. Like, there's just too many things that happen to say that. So I'll sell. I'll say 3 out of 5.
Yeah. I mean, that would be.
They'll have the talent to do so, Trev. Like all 5 have the talent to be NFL players.
Sure.
But just stuff happens. Injuries happen. Guys don't work hard. There's a lot of things that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go.
And from Eddie82, Love and Price will combine for more rushing yardage in the NFL than the 1992 duo of Jerome Bettis and Reggie Brooks, who have a grand total of 15,388 yards.
Hold. I mean, again, I don't even know who these guys are going to be playing for. Like, so can we, like, before I start projecting like their career Hall of Fame statistics, can we just see like who they get drafted by first? And what's wild about Reggie's career, Trev, he had 1,000 yards as a rookie and only finished with 1726.
That's crazy.
He got hurt his second year, and it just was done by his fourth year. So, and back then, injuries, the kind of injuries he had, just they didn't get repaired as well as they do now. But I'm gonna have to hold, man. I don't even know who they're gonna play for. I literally have to know that first. I mean, if a great running back went and played for Dan Marino's whole career, with Dan Marino's whole career, his numbers would look different than if he played, you know, in a different offense where they ran the ball more. It's just different.
From Indiana Irish, buy one, sell one, hold one. Caddyshack, Meatballs, Animal House.
All right, so I'm gonna have to buy Animal House. I'm gonna hold Caddyshack, and I'm gonna sell Meatballs. I don't really remember Meatballs as much. I know I watched it as younger, but I don't remember as much about it. So I'm gonna sell that one. I just don't remember. I don't remember. I know I watched it. I just don't remember that one as much. These are all obviously Bill Murray movies.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy Caddyshack. I'm gonna hold on to Animal House until I'm done watching Caddyshack, so then I can buy that, and then I'll sell Meatballs because I don't think I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
So
what, Meatballs or any of them?
Meatballs. I love Caddyshack and Animal House.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So that makes more sense. Okay, I was taking that as like, okay, I'm just now watching Caddyshack, and once I'm done watching that, then I'm going to watch Animal House because I need to watch them because they were before my time. But you're saying is I'm going to buy it until I hold this one until I'm done watching this one because they're both great. That's very well played.
Thank you.
Very well played.
I'm doing all this today without my buy, sell, hold glasses, dude.
I know. You're on fire. You're on fire.
It's that new position title, baby. I'm fired up.
Can't wait to hear how that conversation with your wife. I got a promotion at work. One little slight thing. My salary was just slashed.
Hear me out.
10%. I got a cool pink badge that I had to write. So it's great.
That I had in pen. Yeah. Oh, man. Another one from Indiana Irish. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Current college football programs, Clemson, USC, and Oklahoma.
I'm going to buy Oklahoma, hold Clemson, and sell USC. Here's why. So Oklahoma I'm buying because right now, Oklahoma is without a doubt the best all-around operation of those. Obviously, Brent Venables led his team to a playoff last year with a lot of holes on that team. Like, he did a great job with that team last year, in my opinion, Trav.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think getting Jim Nagy to kind of run their back office has resulted in making some very strong transfer portal decisions. Their high school recruiting and evaluation has been very strong. For a long time, Jim Nagy was we've had him on Irish Breakdown before, but he ran the Senior Bowl for a long time. He's doing a really nice job there. I just think that program, they got great support. They're heading in a better direction to me. I would argue that USC was a better team than Clemson last year, but I still have more faith that Dabo Swinney can win than Lincoln Riley. And yeah, there's a lot of things Dabo has to prove. Can they get back to their peak? That's a great question. But even the last couple of years are pretty much an average season from what USC has done. So I'm still taking Dabo over Lincoln Riley, and That's really what it boils down to. But Oklahoma is clearly ahead of those two teams, and I also would like to point out that Dabo has still had more 10-win seasons the last 4 years than Lincoln Riley. Dabo has also made the playoffs in the last 4 years. Lincoln Riley has not.
Dabo's won his conference more recently. I mean, it's just there's a laundry list of things. I'm with you. I'm buying Oklahoma, holding Clemson, selling USC. A lot of the things that USC fans are talking about, what Chad Bowden has brought to the table for them and, getting that recruiting infrastructure, Clemson's been had for a decade.
And they're not wrong being excited about Chad's doing. They
Absolutely.
Just keep forgetting that Lincoln Riley's still the guy that he's getting all that talent for.
Yes, absolutely. So same order for me.
Yep.
Another one from Indiana Irish. Buy, sell, hold. The Michigan State game will be closer than many think due to Max Bulla and KK Smith understanding how the Notre Dame offense and defense operate.
So that won't have any impact on it. Number one, they know that they know that. Number one. And so they're not just going to keep doing the same things. They're not going to have the same signals, any of that stuff. Number two, the talent differential is still enormous. Enormous between those two teams. Enormous. So I'm selling that.
I mean, look, respectfully, and I love both of these guys that were at Notre Dame. Steve Angeli was around for the week of prep at Syracuse when they played Notre Dame.
That's right.
And they lost by 63 points. You need a little bit more than that. So I definitely sell. It's year one of Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's going to do some good things up in East Lansing. I don't know how quickly that's going to start to get turned around. Could be this year, could be next year, but no, I'm selling this.
Just a reminder that in Dan Lanning's first game at Oregon with, I think, Bo Nix at quarterback, they lost to Georgia by 46. Dan Lanning was the defensive coordinator for Georgia the year before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you want an example of, hey, who do you think knew the defense more? The guy that ran it or the linebacker coach who was in it for a year? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they lost by 46. Why? Because the talent level was a huge difference. Casey Richardson in the chat said, buy Oklahoma, hold Clemson, sell San Jose State. So he's on line with that petty train that you are on. Very well done, Casey. I dig that. Dig that quite a bit. We do have a super chat, Trev, from Beefeater.
Appreciate you, Beefeater. Buy, sell, hold Lincoln Riley, Brian Kelly, or Pat Narduzzi.
I'm going to buy that Lincoln Riley is an overrated soft coach. I'm going to hold on to my joy of Brian Kelly no longer being a college football coach. And I'm going to sell any chance that Pat Narduzzi has of ever winning anything meaningful. Does that work?
I love it. Yeah, I'm going to buy Lincoln Riley a plane ticket away from my house. I'm going to hold Pat Narduzzi at arm's length, and I'm going to sell Brian Kelly's golf club so he has nothing to do.
There you go. Well, with that 50-some million he's getting from LSU, he can just go buy some new ones.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Domer Grizz, another movie one. Buy one, sell one, hold one. Monty Python, The Holy Grail, Princess Bride, Robin Hood, Men in Tights.
Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't want to sell any of those. Man, what Trev? What are you gonna say?
I actually think I have my order here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to buy Princess Bride, hold Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and sell Robin Hood, Men in Tights, but it's all very close.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. Monty Python and the Holy Grail has some of those three. Monty Python and the Holy Grail and Robin Hood, Men in Tights both have more memorable, hilarious, gut-wrenching laughing scenes for me. Princess Bride was a way better movie than either one of those two. And also still had plenty of comedy. You know what I mean? So, and plenty of memorable quotes as well. You keep using that word. It does not mean what. Yeah, I'll buy Princess Bride, hold Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I'll sell Robin Hood, Men in Tights. That's not an easy one though. Those are three really funny movies. And you have one actor that was in two of those, obviously. Carrie Elways was in Princess Bride and Robin Hood, Men in Tights. So, yeah, he's a very funny dude. Somebody said they've never seen Princess Bride. You got to watch it. I know for dudes it may come across as like, okay, that's a chick flick. It's freaking hilarious. Listen, it's got Andre the Giant in it. It's got Mandy Patinkin in it. It's got Billy Crystal's in it. I mean, there's a lot of great actors in it. Robin Wright, when she was young, was in it.
Bunch of
Easy
sword
on
fights.
the eyes. A lot of sword fights. A lot of great, funny movies. Yeah, great movie. They're all good. They're all hilarious. They're all classics. It's well done.
From BK's last brain cell, buy, sell, hold, Eli Raridan will be in the top 5 tight ends drafted this year.
I'll buy he has a chance. Yeah. Like 4 to 6, 7. Yeah, I'll buy he's got a chance to be there. So, yeah, I'll buy that.
Yep, I'm with you. I think his pro day is going to dictate a lot of where that will be in that range of like 4 to 7. So, yeah, I'm with you. And then Armel Mukum will flash the most in the defensive tackle room in the offseason.
I'm selling it. I mean, he's certainly capable of that, BK. He's certainly capable of that. I just need to see it. Like, I need to see it. Like, I have more faith that Onye or Brew or Tion Gray will flash because I've seen him do it. But Armel has the tools to be that, yes.
I'm going to sell it, not with a lot of conviction, but I'm all aboard the Christopher Burgess hype train. I think I'm going to watch him do some stuff in the interior at spring practices that it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's a real good one.
Then if Colorado wins 8 games this year, Deion will be the next Florida State head coach.
If Colorado wins 8+ games, Deion's at Florida State. Sure, I'll buy that. Yeah, I'll buy that. I think the odd, then that assumes that Florida State won't be that good. I just don't see Colorado winning 8+ games, though.
Yeah,
I just don't see it.
Yeah, there's a world too where Deion still might be, even if they don't win 8 games. I mean, give him more resources than what he had at Colorado. If he goes to Florida State, he's the alum coming home. So, maybe.
I would. I don't know how well that would go over if like his second best season in 4 or 5 years is a 7-5 or 6-6 season. That's gonna be tough.
Agreed.
That's gonna be tough.
The harsh reality with Florida State fans, and obviously you wouldn't want to make more of an impactful hire, but if he goes 6-6 or 7-5, it's still better than what Florida State has done the last 2 years. So it's like, and then you'd be getting Deion. Like, that's what's crazy about this whole thing, man. Now, like,
I just don't know.
I wouldn't do it, but
with all his medical issues where he doesn't go on the road recruiting, like, I don't know how well that would go at Florida State.
Sure.
I mean, let's be real. People will turn on an alum real quick if he doesn't win. Scott Frost at Nebraska. Now, again, that was justified. They should have turned on him.
Yeah.
But your alumnus only goes so far.
And then no SEC quarterback from 2024 to 2026 should have a first or second round grade.
Sell that, because 24 and 25, I'm okay. We can talk. 26, Arch is a first round talent to me.
Yeah,
him
alone.
He'll have a first round grade. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't, there's some overrated quarterbacks in the I think Lenore Sellers is overrated. I think people fall in love with certain aspects of his talent. I think he could be a really good college quarterback. I just don't see him as like a high-level first-round NFL draft pick. But again, if Christian Ponder can be a first-round draft pick, if I keep forgetting his names, Kyle Wilson, Trey Lance, if those guys can be top 10 picks.
Oh, Zach Wilson from BYU.
Sellers, Zach Wilson, there you go. Then Lenore Sellers can be a first-round pick in a top 10
heck
pick.
Yeah.
So I just don't see a lot of them that way. But I think that's starting to change. And Arch Manning is a big one. When you look at the rest of the SEC, I don't think they're going to have a first-round draft pick to start the season at quarterback based on what Trevor and I said the other day. We think that there's a chance that you're going to see, Austin Mack maybe win the starting job early on, but eventually Keelan Russell is going to take over, and eventually he's going to be a first-round talent. I don't know that I'd grade him as a first-round talent in year one. But you look at the rest of the league, Trev, you could argue there's not a lot of other first-round talents there. Trinidad Chambliss is not a first-round talent to me, but eventually Deuce Knight could be. Gunnar Stockton isn't. Marcel Reed isn't. Keelan Russell, maybe. He won't be maybe that year, but he has a first-round talent. John Mateer's not. Jared Curtis isn't. Who's Missouri's quarterback? Who'd they get in the portal? They're going with the kid from last year, the freshman from last year. Are they going with him?
I think they picked somebody up too
to compete with him.
I think so. I forgot.
Just Tennessee, George McIntyre. I like, not a first round pick. Trev, I am not on the Sam Levitt train at all. Kenny Minchie, I like Kenny. I don't know that he's a first round draft pick talent. Aaron Philo isn't. Byron Brown's an interesting one. That could be a very interesting one. I don't know that I this year will tell us if Byron Brown's a first round NFL draft pick, because he'll be able to throw in the SEC. We know he'll run.
Missouri brought in Austin Simmons from Ole Miss.
Okay, that's a good guy to let battle with Zollers.
Yeah,
and then have as a backup in case he doesn't play well. Kamario Taylor is an intriguing player, Trev, but he's way down the road. He's got a lot to prove. He was a freshman last year, a very talented freshman, but can he throw well enough to be in the NFL? That's going to be known down the years. But one thing I'll say overall is I do think that quarterback play in the SEC is trending up from a talent standpoint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And no, I don't view Trinidad Chambliss as a first-round draft pick caliber player. Listen, if Trinidad Chambliss was even remotely close to being graded as a first-round draft pick, he would not be suing and going through all the legal processes he's going through to go back to Ole Miss for another year. He won a D2 national championship and led his SEC team to the college football semifinals while passing for almost 4,000 yards and rushing for over 500 yards. He doesn't need more seasoning to go to the NFL. He's coming back to college because he knows he has no chance of being a high draft pick, because they can say that all they want, that he's 6'1", 200 pounds. He ain't 6'1". So that's the problem there. You know what I mean, Trev? Like he's not even going to come close to sniffing the first round of the NFL draft. Diego Pavia was a heck of a college quarterback. Why is he doing all the fighting he is to try to go back to college? Because he knows he's not an NFL quarterback. Like, they also listed him at 6 feet tall. Yeah. What did he weigh in at? Was he at the combine? What did he check in at? He was at the combine, right?
Yeah, weigh in at, I'm not sure.
He was 5'9" and some change. I believe he was under 5'10". Let me find it. Like, they rounded up to 5'10" in the thing, but let me find this real quick. I want to find Daniel Jeremiah's thing. Give me a second. So I'm going to try to find his, but I think he was sub 5'10", and they rounded up to 5'10", basically. But he was listed as 6 feet tall. He's 6 feet tall. So that's kind of my whole point, Travis. He's not sniffing the first round of the NFL draft on currently, because if he was, he wouldn't be trying to go back to college. Am I wrong?
Yeah. No, you're definitely not wrong. I mean, the answer to the submission, it's easy. Like, it's a sell. I appreciate the submission, BK, but Arch is going to be a first round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he'll get a round 1 to 2 caliber type of grade. I mean, we talk about CJ Carr being first in Heisman odds on FanDuel. The quarterback right behind him is Arch Manning. Like, I think he's in for a good year. I know a lot of people have mixed emotions about him. I get it to a degree, but I think he's in for a big year.
So let me ask you this, Trev. You made the case that he will get a first-round NFL grade. I agree with you. I think he will. Do you think he's got the ability to be it? Because I do. I actually think he's got the talent to be a first-round NFL draft pick, even though I've said he was a little overrated, but you know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely think that he could go in the first round. Like, I think he has the talent to do so.
Okay.
He has great size. He is the type of quarterback that is starting to excel in the NFL. He's able to make plays with his legs, but he does his best work from the pocket. Needs to continue developing, like we said at the start of 2025. But I think the hype that he was getting in 2025, we will start to see that actually come to fruition in 2026. So yeah, I think so.
By the way, it was the Senior Bowl. Diego Pavia measured in at 5'9" and 7/8 at the Senior Bowl. Wasn't the combine. But yeah, that's my point. So first round picks, a lot of the first round talent is still very young. But the guy that I'm curious about is Lenore Sellers. He's the guy that has the best chance to prove me wrong and play himself into the first round because he's got really good physical tools. He just isn't a natural NFL type quarterback for me. But
yeah,
somebody will rank it. Like he'll get first round grades. When I answer the question, it's more my opinion. That's kind of where I'm at. And
yeah. Somebody out there is going to give him the Anthony Richardson treatment just because he's, 6'3", 235. I mean, he'll probably put up good numbers at the combine. Like it's just
he'll test well.
Happens
and from
every
what
year.
I've heard, he's a really good kid.
Yeah.
Like I've heard Lenore Sellers is really well respected, really smart kid. You've heard comments from his dad about why he didn't jump in the portal. Like he was, you know what I mean? Like that says a lot to me. In this era where Sam Levitt quits on his team in the middle of the year and basically knows he's going to the portal and like they don't even give him a shout out. They basically throwing shade at him at the team banquet. And then you got Lenore Sellers' dad like, nah, it's not how I raised my son. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's more important things to my son than money. Because you don't think Lenore Sellers either this year or last year in an open market wouldn't have got a ton of money? Of course he would have. So I just think he's the one that I got my eye on. Could he play himself into round 1, round 2 type of grades? For me, that's the one I want to see.
From Algonquin Irish, Marcus Freeman has clearly articulated his vision and expectations for the program on the field, and all of the coaches are in line behind him to bring that vision to the field on day 1 of 2026. Note, this does not suggest that the team will execute as well on day 1 as on day 150, but rather that every position group understands how they need to function together to fulfill the vision.
I'm going to hold that. I still have the new coaches just got here, and I don't know enough about them to know that. And I still have some questions about Chris Ash. I'll just leave it at that. About whether or not he is truly on board with Marcus Freeman's vision. So I'll hold it for now.
Another one from Algonquin. Marcus Freeman has evolved his head coaching style and will be more engaged in real time with the weekly tactics and personnel that his coordinators deploy in line with the broader strategy.
Well, I'll buy that he needs to be, especially on defense. Like, look, let Mike Denbrock do what Mike Denbrock does. You better be involved. Like, if we ever see another game like Miami or Texas A&M or Purdue again, I'm not even going to be mad at Chris Ash. I'm going to be mad at Marcus Freeman.
100%. I mean, you're a defensive head coach. That's your, quote unquote, your baby. I mean, at some point, yeah, you got to take pride in the product that you're putting out because your offense just had literally a record-setting season. It's time for the defense matchup.
Yep.
And then while Notre Dame aspires to be a line-driven program, they are not. The offensive line, while very talented, does not consistently set a physical tone nor demonstrate the mentality to dominate opponents' D-line. Guess.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. There's a second point to that. So read the second one because they kind of went together.
And then the defensive line is not consistently deployed in an attacking style that disrupts opponents' offenses.
Well, so I will buy this because it fits kind of like with what we said in one of our first shows of the offseason. What Marcus Freeman says he wants this program to be is not necessarily where this program is. I'll agree with that. That is going to be large. This is going to be proven to be absolutely correct or no longer the case in 2026. Look, you watch Iowa play last year, you watch Indiana play, and then you watch Notre Dame play, and I think the whole part about the setting the tone, physically setting the tone is so spot on. So spot on. You watch mid zone being run in Iowa, and then watch mid zone get run by Notre Dame. And I'm like, dude, Jeremiah Love would have rushed for 1,800 yards this year at Iowa without a quarterback taking the pressure off because of how they blocked. So yeah, I buy that. The D line I would have maybe disagreed with before Chris Ash, but it just kind of goes back to the whole I don't truly know what he wants to be. I don't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like you said, we talked about this earlier. I don't think Notre Dame is a line-driven program yet. And 2026 will go a long way in either proving us right or proving us to have that narrative changed.
Yep. I hate saying that, but that's the truth.
Got a food one in here from T-Shop 11. Buy, sell, hold. Methods of cooking these meats. Roasting a chuck roast in a crock pot, grilling chicken, or pan frying a steak. Oh,
I'm going to buy pan frying a steak. I love pan frying steaks. I used to be a steak on the grill guy, so I wouldn't eat a lot of steak over the winter. But, I started a few years ago. I started doing that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, if you know how to do it, it's phenomenal. I'm gonna hold roasting a chuck roast in a crock pot because you can make some really good stews and stuff with that. And I'm going to sell grilling a chicken because when I think grilling a chicken, Trev, I'm thinking doing it like on the grill outside, and I don't love chicken on a grill. I'm more of either on a stovetop, like on a pan, or baking. Like I'm not a huge I don't like that. Like when you grill a steak outside, it's got that I don't need not charcoal because I don't use charcoal, but it's got that crusty type of texture and that little extra grill flavor. I love that on a steak. I don't love that on chicken. I don't. So it could just be that I don't cook it well, but I've always kind of felt that way. So that's mine. What say you, Trev?
I'm definitely buying pan frying a steak, and in either one of a stainless steel pan or a cast iron. Love either. I'm going to hold grilling chicken, and then I'm going to sell chuck roast in a crock pot. Yeah, the one thing that stinks about being in an apartment is I don't have any of my own grilling things. There's communal grills. They're okay, but
yeah, I would have to clean those so much to even feel comfortable using them that it would just make it not even worth it, to be completely honest with you. I don't know that I could do that, Trev. I really don't. I don't know that I could do that.
Another one from T. Schaub. Tight end 2 this year will have a more expanded role than what Ty Washington had last year.
Buy. Definitely buy.
Yeah.
Run game alone, but especially in the pass game as well. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with CJ Carr being a year older in the offense and more familiar with the reads in the playbook, there will be at least an 8% increase to targets in the middle of the field. 5% seemed too little, and 10% seemed excessive. I was going to ask, 8 seems specific. I appreciate the clarification.
Well, what do we count as middle of the field? That would be kind of my thing. If you're counting middle of the field, kind of like how Pro Football Focus does it, which is inside the numbers, I would say it'd be higher. It'd be 10 or higher. If you count middle of the field the way that I do, which is basically kind of like 3 yards outside the hash and in, 8's the max. It's not the volume. It's just the willingness to do it a couple times a game.
Sure.
I'm not someone who wants to throw over the middle of the field 8, 9 more times a game than you're doing it now. It's more like 3, 4 on various levels, 5 at the most, including posts, digs, overs, all the way down. So I guess it just depends on what you count as middle of the field. The Pro Football Focus numbers, I think that'll jump up 10 or more. If you count what I view as more of the middle of the field, I'd say 8 is a good number. So I'll buy that it's somewhere between 5 and 8. I'll buy that.
Sure.
So somebody said, get a George Foreman. Are you even allowed to have those? Some apartments don't allow you to have those.
I can. It's not the same. I mean,
true.
Yeah. It's kind of like electric. Yeah, it's kind of like when people are like, I really want like a Blackstone grill. I'm gonna have all the grill gadgets whenever we move into a house. But I had a buddy that was like, "Oh, you could just get a, like those electric skillet things." It's like, it's
Mhm.
just not the same.
Not the
Like
same. Yeah, agree.
from BK's personal chef, you would rather have a quarterback who has 40 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, no more than 2 a game, than a quarterback who has 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
And this is an easy one. Give me the 40-10 guy. You'd have to give me a much lower number than 7, especially if you say no more than 2 a game to take that. I mean, 11 more touchdowns with 3 fewer picks, or only 3 more picks. I'll take that all day. I
Yeah.
mean, Deshaun Watson led Clemson to a national title throwing 17 picks. Yeah, give me 40-10. Now, again, there's a lot of context I don't have. When do those picks happen? Are they 3rd and 9 picks because he's taking a shot? Like, there's a lot of that, but I'd probably take the 40-10. I'll take the 40-10, no doubt, over 29-7, especially if you say there's no more than 2 in a game, because there's no like really terrible 3 or 4 game pick that bumps that way up.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of factors go in here. Just raw numbers, I would take the 40 to 10. But it's like, is my quarterback having to throw for 40 touchdowns to be 9-3 because the defense is
Sure.
terrible? Like, is the 29 touchdowns and 7 interceptions because the quarterback has Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price in the backfield? Like, but just raw numbers, I would take the 40 to 10.
Agree. I
And
mean,
that,
just real quick, just so people understand this, you're basically a 4-to-1 ratio on both of them. You're one more touchdown pass above a 4-to-1 ratio on 29-7. I mean, you're giving me the same ratio, basically, of touchdowns to interceptions. I don't think lessening both changes that for me. That's why I'd say you give me 29 touchdowns, you better be like Jimmy Clausen. You better throw like 4 picks in the regular season if you're only going to be at like
right,
28, 29 touchdowns.
right.
Like, I can live with 28-4 because that's a, I mean, dude, that's over a 6-to-1 ratio. I mean, that's a 7-to-1 ratio. 28 touchdowns and 4 picks. 29-7 is not a number that blows me away. 40-10 does, because that's 11 more touchdowns and only 3 more interceptions. I will
Absolutely.
gladly take that. Gladly take that.
Another one for BK's personal chef. Buy, sell, hold your personal enjoyment of the following hypothetical wins this year. First one is beating USC in the first round of a home playoff game by 24 points, featuring a snow game in which Notre Dame rushes for 300 plus yards.
Okay, it's a good start. Good start. Yeah, come on.
Option number 2 is beating Miami on November 17th or 7th by 17 points, featuring a Christian Gray pick 6. Miami scoring with 30 seconds left to bring the game closer than it really is. Or 3, beating Ohio State in the quarterfinals by 7 points, featuring Greathouse catching a game-winning vertical concept for 20 yards to seal the game on the final drive.
Okay, the sell is easy for me. It's the USC win in the playoffs. I don't want USC to make the playoffs. I don't care. Notre Dame has shown that they can dominate USC. They haven't shown that they can do that to Miami and Ohio State. So number one, right there, those two take the cake for me, because that shows me more. So like USC gets rewarded for bailing out on Notre Dame only to get killed by Notre Dame. Would I love to see that? Yeah, I'd love to see that. But like, it just doesn't move the needle for me. It's more like, ha ha, we told you suck kind of thing. So I'd love it, but to me, it's one of these two. Man, what makes it hard, Trev, is the redemption thing for Christian Gray would be sweet. That's what makes that one tougher for me. I mean, if you just look at the top line of those two things, it's easy. It's Ohio State in the quarterfinals by 7 over beating Miami in the regular season by 17. Because there's maybe Miami's not that good. But when I think of the pick 6, like that's like, man, because I just love that kid, and I'd love for him to kind of get that, that sort of redemption. But I mean, at the end of the day, the biggest game is beating Ohio State in the playoffs would be huge. Absolutely. Beating Ohio State on a neutral field by 7 points. I don't care if it's by a point. You just need to slay that dragon, man. So that's the one I would ultimately buy. But the Christian Gray pick six makes me have to think about that one because that would be so great for that young man. But I got to go through Ohio State one. So buy Ohio State, hold Miami, sell USC in the playoffs. But they'd all be awesome wins.
Yeah, I'm selling the USC one too. Because I've already watched them beat them soundly by rushing for over 300 yards. I watched that less than a calendar year ago. Yeah. I don't need to see it again. If I want to see it again, I can just turn on the replays of the last time that they played to watch that happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, what'd they do 2 years ago while you're thinking more about that? I mean, we saw them do that on the road last year, basically. They ran for, 258 yards and 6.8 yards per carry at USC. The only reason they didn't get to 300 is because they lost 2 full possessions in the fourth quarter because of pick sixes. And that's
Very
what Jeremiah Love getting hurt in the first drive of the second half. The backup running back goes in and runs for 100 yards in a half.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's like, okay, sure. That's why I say for me, it'd just be the fun of mocking USC, like, haha, this is what you get. You duck Notre Dame to make the playoffs, and your reward is having to play Notre Dame. Haha. But that doesn't move the Notre Dame program forward at all. These two do. So between those two, Trev, I've stalled. What is your pick?
I'm going to buy beating Miami and then hold beating Ohio State in the quarterfinals. One, personally, Miami fans have just been, since August 31st of last year, just abysmal. And it's been very frustrating to listen to. The only thing that's preventing me from buying the Ohio State one, because I do agree that it is on the bigger stage, but the one pushback will be Ohio State fans talk about, well, you didn't, we beat you guys in the Natty, versus the quarterfinals. Sure. Whereas for Miami, it's like, you beat us last year. Outside of you, daily comments, don't worry. You've actually been pretty cool. But by and large, the Miami fan base, minus daily comments, has been rough to interact with. And there's no potential pushback of like, we beat you on a bigger stage. Like, you beat us in the regular season last year by 3, and we beat you guys by 17. Like, no contest.
Right.
See you later. So that's what separated it for me.
Fair. Now, can we get both? Can we get all 3 of those? Think about that. Hey. Notre Dame beats Miami in November by 17. Christian Gray gets a pick 6. Miami scores late to make it even closer than it is. Then first round of the playoffs, Notre Dame hosts a game against USC, destroys them. What was it? 3 rushes for 300 yards. Wins by 24 points or more, snow game. Then the next round, they go beat Ohio State. Like, yeah, I'll take all those. That'd be one heck of a month. But, yeah, it'd be one heck of a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insured by Big said, I loathe the day Notre Dame wins the Natty. X will be awful with Notre Dame fans. Darn right, and we will deserve every ounce of, stick that where the sun don't shine. I'm just saying it will be justified. But yes, I will be the first day, it'll all be about the joy of winning against Notre Dame winning. Once that wears off, yeah, I'm going to not be fun. I'm not going to be fun. Yeah. If you're not a Notre Dame, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're going to love me. If you're not a Notre Dame fan, he said, I'm going to have to mute BD for a month. At least, brother. At least. Just hit me. After about a month, hit me up with a DM like, hey, BD, are you still kind of fired up right now? Or can I unmute you? Like, no, man, you may have to give me a couple more weeks. I'll let you know when it's safe to come back, my man. I'll let you know when it's safe. No doubt.
From Ballpeen Shillelagh, buy, sell, hold. If the offensive line pans out the way it currently seems to be trending, this 2026 team has a high likelihood of going on a run similar to that of the 2018 Clemson team.
100% buy. Now, I would say for the offensive side to do their part, yes, I buy that. Now, we need the Notre Dame defensive line to be somewhat close to what that 2018 Clemson D-line was as well. But yes, from an offensive side of the ball standpoint, absolutely. We've said it, that's the key to their season.
Mm-hmm.
Is the offensive line is the numero uno key. There's several others that are super important. CJ Carr is super important. The D-line is super important. Chris Ash, is super important. That, however, is the number one. If the offensive line plays to its talent, I don't know how you beat this team. I truly believe that.
Absolutely.
I don't.
The offensive line's the engine of the car. Like that's what it means for this team this year. It really does. I go on with analogy after analogy of what position group is what part of the car. But by and large, the offensive line group is the engine that makes the car go. And they absolutely need it. And then given the assumption for the offensive line, the weakest position group on the roster appears to be the kickers.
Well, number one, I would sell the idea of using the word weakest because I don't know that they have a weak position. I'd say the position that I have the biggest questions about actually right now is probably tight end.
Yeah.
Just because there's a combination of no experience and or injuries. Spencer Porath was a really good kicker at Purdue last year. We saw him go 6 for 6 on kicks, 3 field goals, 3 extra points in Notre Dame Stadium, including a 48-yarder when the game was kind of still somewhat, I wouldn't say in doubt, but like moderately competitive. So I'm gonna say I'm actually not as worried about kicker because I think they've done the smart thing. They went out and got 3 scholarship athletes at kicker and said, hey, let the best man win. And 2 of them are not freshmen. I feel way better about that. If they don't have a good kicking operation now, then Marty Biaggi's got to go because then it's very clearly he's ruining them. Like I've said this before, I don't know that we know that Marty Biaggi's the problem. 25 was bad. I wasn't super thrilled about the Noah Burnett pickup anyway. In 2024, that is 100% on Mitch Jeter getting injured. Because once he came back from the injury, he was money. He was money in the playoffs. Kicked the game winner. So if this year it sucks again, then Marty Biaggi's clearly the problem. I don't know that we can say that right now. I think you could say he was the problem in 2025. I don't know that you can say that in 2024. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one, Trev. So I actually think tight end is the one I have the biggest question mark in. They have a way more proven kicker than they have anything at tight end.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's just a lot of question marks around that. But the bright side about Notre Dame's roster is a lot of the question marks kind of are in-depth pieces, like who's going to be the QB2, what's the rotation look like at this position here. But yeah, I'm with you on that one. From Jake 8589, both Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price will have a greater impact, aka better careers in the NFL than Ashton Jeanty.
I'm going to defer to my previous stance. I need to see them who they get drafted by first. So I'm going to hold that one, Jake.
Then Jeremiah Love will be characterized by many as a faster version of Ricky Waters. I believe many similarities with the running and pass catching ability.
I'll buy that. I've already done that. I mean, I said when he changed his number from 12 to 4, I was bummed because, the 12 he reminded me so much of Ricky Waters. So, yeah, I absolutely buy that. Yeah, I absolutely buy that. I think that he'll get used more in the pass game in the NFL than he was at Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely he will. It's a buy for me as well. From Patty Fitz, buy so hold, Notre Dame's offense will average 6 yards per play. Oh, gosh.
Easy buy.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not way past, I mean, they were over 7 last year, Jake.
7.3.
Yeah, I mean, they set a program record last year. If they're sniffing, if they're in the 6s, then the offense has regressed. Like, definitely regressed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The definite buy for me. Then let's talk third downs. Notre Dame's offense will convert 45% of them this season.
Yeah, buy. I mean, that's they were at 48.2 last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll definitely buy that. I mean, for them to be at 45, they'd have to regress. And then same thing for this last one. The defense will allow under 5 yards. All these numbers would require regression. They were at 4.6 last year. I don't think Notre Dame's allowed 5 yards of play. When was the last time Notre Dame allowed 5 yards of play? 4.8 the year before, 4.4 in 23. You have to go back to 2022, the last time Notre Dame allowed more than 5 yards of play. They were 4.6 last year. So Notre Dame was already way above all those numbers just this past year. So I'll buy all of those. And if they're not if they're not better than all those, I'm going to be concerned.
I was about to say, if they aren't, you could argue significantly ahead of some of those. That's just flat out regression. So it's a buy with a you better not be at those.
Yeah.
Carolina Irish, buy one, sell one, hold one. Your most anticipated movie coming up: Project Hail Mary, Spider-Man Brand New Day, Masters of the Universe.
What's Project Hail Mary? Is that the one with? That's not the one with Alan. Oh no, that's the one with Ryan Gosling, right? Where he's got to save the planet. I have only seen one preview for that, so I'm not as familiar with that. I am actually surprisingly a fan of Ryan Gosling as an actor. Like, I know. I don't know what other people think, but like he's fun to watch. I've enjoyed him in a lot of movies that I've seen him in. What's the one? Crazy Stupid Love. He's great.
Oh,
and that's
the best rom-com out there.
Yeah, he's great in that one. He's great. Have you ever seen not Fall Guy? Yeah, Fall Guy. Have you seen that one? He's awesome in that movie, in my opinion. Like I'm a big Ryan Gosling fan. But the easy one for me is still Masters of the Universe. I'm so excited about that. Brand New Day, it would be nice for Marvel to get back to making decent movies again, right? But like we've seen really good Spider-Mans. I think that's the one thing that Marvel has continued to do well, in my opinion. Now, I will be honest, I did not see the most recent Spider-Man. The one where they had the crossovers.
Oh, yeah, No Way Home.
Yeah, I don't know if you liked that or not. I didn't see that one. But most people that I know that are anti-Marvel now, or not anti-Marvel, they're down on Marvel because the quality of their movies has really sucked since Endgame, still liked the Spider-Man. And I liked the one that came out afterwards as well. But I just haven't seen the most recent one. But I've seen those before. What I have not seen is a He-Man movie that I was excited about. And so fingers crossed that movie's going to be really good. I'm so excited about that. So I'm going to buy Masters of the Universe, hold Spider-Man Brand New Day, and I'll sell Project Hail Mary because I'm just the topic doesn't necessarily interest me, but I'll watch it anyway because like I said, I really like Ryan Gosling. Very, very much looking forward to Masters of the Universe, man. Like I don't know if I've seen yet a preview for a 26 movie that I'm more excited about than Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I'll probably buy Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm not as into Marvel as I used to be, like in that, whatever you put out, take my money. But Spider-Man, I'm still very high on. Yeah. Like during the Infinity Saga, it was, like during the Infinity Saga, it was like, oh, Marvel's coming out with a movie. Yeah, I'll just take my money. Yep. I'll go see it probably multiple times.
From Iron Man 1 on, bro, I was all about everything they put out. Yeah.
I know Project Hail Mary is based on a book. One of my buddies read the book and is very much looking forward to that movie. I have not read the book. For me, it's kind of a tie between Project Hail Mary and Masters of the Universe. I just love going to the movies and seeing movies. He-Man was a little bit before my time. Like I never caught that wave of that. But I'm interested to see the movie. And then Project Hail Mary, to your point, like Ryan Gosling. Yeah. Like then Project Hail Mary, I'm interested. I'll probably go see it with that buddy. But yeah, the biggest one for me is Spider-Man.
There's a He-Man channel on YouTube that has all the old He-Mans on it. You can watch them in chronological order. I will be doing that before the movie comes out. I'm just letting you know right now. Very excited about that. Because there's just so much potential. Like, I'm nervous that they're going to kind of, like, I want to know, is this going to be like a start to finish He-Man movie? Or is this a movie where it's like the start of more?
Like a saga.
And yes. Like, does he defeat Skeletor and Skeletor is done at the end of it? Or is it like he might defeat Skeletor, but he didn't finish Skeletor off. Therefore, there's not going to be another. And then there was other bad guys besides just Skeletor. So, but like, you know what I mean, Trev? Like, that's kind of my thing. I want to see, okay, is what's next. Like, I thought that's what they did a great job of with Loki. Like they were able to have Loki be a bad guy or a nemesis in multiple, movies because of the way that he was quote unquote defeated. That's what I'm curious about. Like, do they set it up for more He-Man movies, or is this just kind of a one and done? I'm hoping that it's really well done and sets up for more because there's so many more. I do worry. Here's my worry based on the preview. There's a lot of the characters in that preview. And like, do they go the Justice League route and just not build up? Is there like no character development and we just jump into the end game type of thing? Or will there be some character development, some action at the end, and then it sets up for the next one? That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. That's what I'm hoping for.
Here's the hoping.
Yeah, Andy Matador just said something that I absolutely love. He said he hated the Masters of the Universe movie, which I did as well. He goes, Rocky IV is fantastic. It's so good that I hated Dolph Lundgren throughout the 80s because of it. I had a similar feeling. I didn't hate Dolph Lundgren, but like I couldn't see a Russian commie playing He-Man because in Rocky IV he was, and again, keep in mind I was like not even a teenager, I think, when Rocky IV came out. You know what I mean? Like, you're a commie, Russian commie, and that's He-Man, my favorite, humanoid type character. He actually was a human because his mom was human. But yes, that's how I was, dude. I couldn't get into the whole Dolph Lundgren as He-Man because I just kept seeing Ivan Drago. Like, dude, you got beat by a guy that's 5'7". You're gonna be He-Man. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. You were on steroids and still got beat by a dude who's 5'7". You know what I mean? Like, who was retired? I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I'm with you, Andy Matador. I'm absolutely with you. Vince and I will be going, by the way, we will be going to see the He-Man movie together.
Heck yeah.
We've already reserved that. This is the last one here, Trev.
From Team OD, Buy, Sell, Hold. After Notre Dame wins the Natty in dominating fashion, you were able to have a one-on-one sit-down interview with only one. Who are you doing? Buy one, sell one, hold one. CJ Carr, Coach Freeman, or the player that wins the MVP for that game? Pretend it's not Carr.
I would buy Coach Freeman. I would hold CJ Carr, and I would sell the player the number 3. But I would take all 3. But yes, I would just be able to sit down with Marcus Freeman and just kind of be able to talk through just going back to 2022 to now and just be able to talk through all that. We're like, CJ wasn't even on the team the first, 2 years. But I think that would just be more of an interesting journey type conversation. They'd all be fascinating talks, but that one I think I would enjoy more and we get a lot more from. That's where
absolutely. Same order from my end as well. But to your point, I don't think any of them would be a bad interview.
Yep. They'd all be great. They'd all be great. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, Trev, I think that's a great way to end today's Buy, Sell, Hold. Really good stuff. Hey, and great stuff in the conversation, by the way. So the chat was really awesome today. I appreciate you all very much. Got off to a rough start thanks to a couple guys talking about Lane Kiffin, but you guys recovered. It ended up being a great chat today and great Buy, Sell, Hold submission. So thanks y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Here in about 50 minutes, the guys over on IB Nation Sports Beat are going live. They're going to be talking about some NFL Combine stuff. They're also going to be breaking down some excellence from Hannah Hidalgo. So make sure you tune into them. 5:05 p.m. is when they get started. Now,
ridiculous
Brian,
last night.
Yeah, she's an absolute.
Who was more ridiculous, Trevor? Her or what Jalen Harrelson did or Cole Serta did against NC State? They were all. It was a pretty good week for men's and women's basketball.
Yeah, Notre Dame Hoops.
Most recent game.
Notre Dame Hoops came alive this past weekend.
Yes.
They were dropping buckets. That's for sure. 100% for sure. Well, hey, folks, on your way out of here, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. Anybody that you know loves Notre Dame and college football as much as you do. But as always, best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards@irishbreakdown.com. Brian and I will be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for more offseason content. But until then, that's Brian. I'm Trevor. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown podcast.